Chapter 1. At this moment, even Lin Lan and the old lady behind her had looks of disbelief in their eyes. Just like Qin Dandan. They knew all about Zhou Donghuang's background. Zhou Donghuang had yet to develop his qi. But now he had sent Hong Yu, a level 1 adept of qi gathering, flying and even injured him. He had the complete upper hand. At this moment they were even wondering if they were dreaming? If you dare move again, I'll kill you. Seeing Hong Yu struggle to his feet, Zhou Donghuang grinned, revealing 2 rows of snow-white teeth. His eyes were filled with murderous intent, and Hong Yu was so frightened that his legs felt like lead, not daring to move an inch. Qin Dandan. Zhou Donghuang's gaze fell on Qin Dandan again, his eyes filled with murderous intent. Sensing Zhou Donghuang's murderous intent towards Qin Dandan, Hong Yu's eyes narrowed, and he immediately looked at Lin Lan, warning her in a low voice, "President Lin, control your son, don't make a mistake. Miss Dandan is the daughter-in-law approved by the patriarch of the Hong family." Hong Yu's words were undoubtedly a threat to Lin Lan. "Donghuang, come back." Lin Lan's expression changed slightly, and she tried hard to suppress her anger as she looked at Zhou Donghuang with a pained expression. They were not blood-related, but why was this son so caring? Zhou Donghuang paused just as he was about to move, and he asked in a slightly hoarse voice, "Mother, are you still going to protect her now? This is the last time. From today onwards I, Lin Lan, will sever all ties with Qin Dandan." Lin Lan said in a low voice. "All right, for mother's sake, I won't kill her today." Hearing Zhou Donghuang's words, Qin Dandan heaved a sigh of relief. Just then Zhou Donghuang murmured, "But if I let her leave in one piece today, I won't be happy." In the instant that Qin Dandan's expression changed, Zhou Donghuang had already moved and slapped Qin Dandan hard across the face. Smack. The crisp sound of a slap rang out. Half of Qin Dandan's face was slapped swollen, and she was sent flying, following in Hong Yu's footsteps. In fact, she was even more miserable than Hong Yu. She opened her mouth and spat out a few mouthfuls of blood along with broken teeth. Qin Dandan glared at Zhou Donghuang, her pretty face contorted and twisted. "Zhou Donghuang, how dare you hit me? You're looking for..." Meeting Zhou Donghuang's cold, murderous gaze, Qin Dandan forcefully swallowed the word "die." "Qin Dandan, everyone has to be responsible for the choices they make. I just hope you won't regret it in the future." Zhou Donghuang glanced coldly at Qin Dandan, his voice devoid of any emotion. "Of course I won't." Qin Dandan responded with a cold smile. She looked at Zhou Donghuang, suppressing the cold, murderous intent in her eyes. While Qin Dandan was furious, she was also a little puzzled. How could this trash suddenly have such strength? Not only did he defeat Hong Yu, he even dashed up to her and made a move on her, leaving her with no time to react at all. Of course, even if Zhou Donghuang had some strength now, Qin Dandan did not think much of it. The man she, Qin Dandan, was about to marry was the first young master of the Hong family of the prefecture capital, a man favored by the heavens in the country of Yunyang. How could this trash in front of her compare? "Guild Master Hong, let's go." Qin Dandan struggled to stand up and left with Hong Yu. As she reached the door of the hall, she paused and turned back to look at Zhou Donghuang. "I only hope that you can withstand the fury of the Lin family of the prefecture capital. After all, I do not wish for the Magnolia Guild, which has accompanied me since I was a child, to disappear just like that." As she said this, the corner of Qin Dandan's mouth, which was still bleeding, turned up in a mocking smile. "If you don't get lost, believe it or not, I'll kill you." Zhou Donghuang's expression was cold as he stepped forward, gritting his teeth as he shouted. Qin Dandan's expression changed and she turned and left in a panic with Hong Yu. This little b****. Why didn't I realize before that she was an ungrateful wretch? After Qin Dandan left with Hong Yu, the old woman behind Lin Lan was so angry that her face was contorted. "Mother." Under Lin Lan's shocked gaze, Zhou Donghuang turned and ran to her, hugging her tightly in his arms, not letting go for a long time. Only then did Lin Lan realize that unknowingly, her son had grown taller than her. "Donghuang, I'm fine." Lin Lan thought that Zhou Donghuang was feeling sorry for her, but she did not know that Zhou Donghuang was emotional because he had not seen her for so long. 1,000 years had passed in an instant and the world had changed. At this moment only Zhou Donghuang knew how he felt. "Miss, what should we do?" "The formula has been obtained by the Sunset Guild, which is equivalent to the Hong family obtaining it. Although it was Qin Dandan's betrayal, the Lin family will not consider this. They will only vent their anger on you and the Magnolia Guild." The old woman was so anxious that she stamped her foot. Hearing the old woman's words, Lin Lan's body trembled, and her eyes were filled with worry. This result was also within her expectations. Like the Hong family, the Lin family was also a large family in the prefecture capital. Lin Lan was a member of the Lin family, and had been sent to Qingshan town by the Lin family long ago to manage the guild, which was how the Magnolia Guild had been established. The Magnolia Guild was under the protection of the Lin family and enjoyed the resources of the Lin family. Every year they had to hand over 90% of their profits to the Lin family. The remaining 10% of the profits belonged to Lin Lan, the guild master of the Magnolia Guild. This time, if the Lin family knew that the formula had been leaked by Lin Lan's Magnolia Guild, they would be furious. Feeling Lin Lan's trembling body, Zhou Donghuang released her and asked, "Mother, what formula did you lose?" In his previous life, although he knew that Chindandan had leaked the formula, he did not know what it was. But he did not care about the formula that the Lin family had produced. He had stood at the top of the universe in his previous life, and had seen all kinds of formulas. A formula produced by a small family in the tiny planet of Ziyun was no different from toilet paper in his eyes. "It is a specially made blood-staunching elixir," Lin Lan said with a serious expression. Lin Lan said with a solemn expression. Moreover, the Lin family spent a great deal of money to invite the intermediate apothecary to serve the Lin family. He personally concocted this blood-staunching elixir. The blood-staunching elixir's effect is a whole 30% better than the blood-staunching elixir widely circulated in the market. The planet of Ziyun was a place where martial arts were prevalent, and the strong were respected. Adepts often fought with each other, so elixirs like blood-staunching elixirs were very popular. The more effective the blood-staunching elixir, the more popular it was. Blood-staunching elixir? Zhou Donghuang searched through the 1,000 years of memories in his mind and quickly found the formula for the lowest-grade blood-staunching elixir. Its effectiveness was double that of the blood-staunching elixir that was widely available on the market in the country of Yunyang. If I remove a few of the herbs, it should be able to reduce the effectiveness of the blood-staunching elixir. Zhou Donghuang did not intend to take the formula out directly, but he wanted to remove a few of the herbs in order to reduce the effectiveness of the lowest-grade blood-staunching elixir in his memory. Otherwise, if word of the blood-staunching elixir got out, it would definitely cause a sensation in the country of Yunyang. That would not be a good thing for him now. After thousands of years in his past life, he had seen far too many cases of people getting into trouble because of their wealth. "Mother, I'll go to the pharmacy warehouse now. If nothing goes wrong, I'll be able to formulate an even better blood-staunching elixir for you in 15 minutes. Zhou Donghuang looked at the worried Lin Lan and said bluntly, "When the time comes, if you bring the formula for the blood-staunching elixir back to the Lin family, not only will the Lin family not blame you, they will even reward you. Young master, at a time like this, don't joke like this." Before Lin Lan could speak, the old woman behind her had already spoken up with a bitter smile, thinking that Zhou Donghuang was joking. The old woman had been with Lin Lan since she was very young. Later, she had left the Lin family in the prefecture capital with Lin Lan and come to Qingshan town. She had been loyal to Lin Lan. Because of this, when Zhou Donghuang mentioned that he could formulate an even better blood-staunching elixir, he did not avoid her. "Donghuang, you don't have to comfort mother." Lin Lan also shook her head, not taking Zhou Donghuang's words to heart. Although this son of hers was not her biological son, she had watched him grow up. How could she not know what he was capable of? "Mother, Granny Lian, I'm not joking. Wait for me here, I'll give you the formula in 15 minutes. After saying this, Zhou Donghuang quickly left the living room and went to the pharmacy warehouse. The pharmacy warehouse was less than 200 meters from the living room, and he arrived in a moment. The guards of the Magnolia Guild guarding the pharmacy warehouse naturally did not dare to stop Zhou Donghuang, the young master of the Magnolia Guild, and allowed him to enter. Entering the pharmacy warehouse, Zhou Donghuang began to search for the herbs to formulate the blood-staunching elixir based on his memory. To formulate the elixir, he only needed to grind the elixir into powder, and with the ready-made tools in the pharmacy warehouse, Zhou Donghuang quickly finished formulating the blood-staunching elixir. Done. In less than 15 minutes, he had reduced the effectiveness of the lowest-grade blood-staunching elixir in his memory by 60%. Zhou Donghuang had also written out a formula for a blood-staunching elixir that was 40% more effective than the ones on the market. When Zhou Donghuang returned to the living room and handed the formula to Lin Lan, neither Lin Lan nor Granny Lian believed him. However, after Lin Lan had personally tried the blood-staunching elixir that Zhou Donghuang had formulated, she had no choice but to believe it. "It's actually true?" Lin Lan and Granny Lian looked at each other and saw the disbelief in each other's eyes. "Donghuang." Lin Lan looked at Zhou Donghuang gravely. "Tell me honestly, where did you get the formula for this blood-staunching elixir?" The formula for this blood-staunching elixir was far more valuable than the one that Chindandan had leaked. After all, one was 40% more effective than the blood-staunching elixir on the market, while the other was only 30% more effective. Also, you haven't even developed Qi, so how did you defeat Guild Master Hiyu of the Sunset Guild? For the first time, Lin Lan felt that she did not understand her son at all. Mother, I formulated this blood-staunching elixir myself. As for where I got the formula and how I defeated Hiyu, it's a long story, Zhou Donghuang said helplessly. Why don't you go back to the Lin family in the prefecture capital first and deliver this formula to them to make amends? I'll tell you when you get back, how about that? Now, all Zhou Donghuang wanted was for his mother to solve this problem as soon as possible so that she would not get into trouble like she had in his previous life. Alright. I'll ask you when I get back. Lin Lan knew the seriousness of the matter, and after handing over some trivial matters of the guild to Granny Lien, she left Qingshan town on a fast horse and headed in the direction of the prefecture capital. Lin Lan was a level 1 adept of Qi gathering, and no one knew that she had such a valuable formula on her, so Zhou Donghuang was not worried that something would happen to her on the way. If Chindandan knew that young master had produced an even better formula, she would be so angry that she would vomit blood. Granny Lien said with a smile after Lin Lan had left. Hearing Granny Lien mention Chindandan, a cold glint flashed in Zhou Donghuang's eyes, and his lips curled into a cold smile. I will make her live in regret and pain for the rest of her life. No rush, take your time playing with her. Chapter 2. Granny Lien, are there any 100-year-old blood ginseng in the guild's treasure storeroom? Zhou Donghuang asked Granny Lien. He had not seen any blood ginseng older than 20 years in the pharmacy storeroom. Therefore, he guessed that all blood ginseng older than 20 years should be stored in the Magnolia Guild's treasure storeroom. In the Magnolia Guild, precious items would be stored in a special treasure storeroom. In the entire Magnolia Guild, only Lin Lan and Granny Lien knew where the treasure storeroom was. It would be difficult for anyone else to even find it, let alone enter. 100-year-old blood ginseng? Young master, what do you want that for? It is not an ordinary herb, it is a rare herb of extraordinary value. Granny Lien was shocked by Zhou Donghuang's words. I need it urgently, do you have it? Zhou Donghuang asked solemnly. There was one a few years ago, but it was sold. Granny Lien shook her head. There are 2 50-year-old blood ginseng. Do you want it, young master? Under normal circumstances, Granny Lien would not have given even a 50-year-old blood ginseng to Zhou Donghuang, for fear that he would waste it. But now, seeing Zhou Donghuang produce a formula that was even better than the blood-staunching elixir formulated by the intermediate-level medicine master of the Lin family, she dared not doubt Zhou Donghuang's ability in this area. Only 50-year-old blood ginseng? Zhou Donghuang was a little disappointed. 50-year-old blood ginseng was much inferior to 100-year-old blood ginseng. But looking at the current situation, he could only make do. That's fine. Granny Lien, send those 2 50-year-old blood ginseng to my room in a while. After informing Granny Lien, Zhou Donghuang went to the pharmacy storeroom to collect some other herbs that he needed before returning to his room. The most important thing now is to remove the seal in my body. In my previous life, the crazy Taoist was curious about the seal in my body. That was why he targeted me and brought me to Earth. Zhou Donghuang regarded Earth, where he had stayed for 100 years, as his home, and he had many old friends there. But the spirit energy on Earth was too thin, far inferior to that of Ziyun. He did not intend to return until he had succeeded in his training. As long as I break the seal, the crazy Taoist will not target me anymore. The blood ginseng that Zhou Donghuang had requested from Granny Lien was the main ingredient among the many herbs needed to break the seal in his body. Just now, before he returned to his room, he went to the pharmacy warehouse to get a pile of medicinal ingredients, which were auxiliary medicines. If he had a 100-year-old blood ginseng as the main ingredient, he would only need one night to completely undo the seal in his body. Now, with 2 50-year-old blood ginseng as the main ingredient, it would take at least 3 or 4 days for the seal in his body to be undone. However, even if it's 3 or 4 days, it's still not too late. After all, the crazy Taoist won't show up until 10 days later. A few years ago, when Zhou Donghuang wanted to train his Qi, Lin Lan had told him. In his body, there was a seal placed by his biological father that sealed the meridians in his body, so he could not cultivate Qi and could not become a martial adept. As for who his father was, he had asked Lin Lan, but she did not know either. She had only said that he was her savior, and after saving her life, he had entrusted Zhou Donghuang to her. I don't know who your biological father is, but he said that he is not from Ziyun. He hoped that you would not practice and live a peaceful life as an ordinary person. These were Lin Lan's exact words. Although, at this time in his previous life, Zhou Donghuang did not know who his father was. However, in his previous life many years after he left Earth, he found out what kind of person his father was based on the jade tablet that his father had left him. He also understood what had happened that year that caused his father to leave him alone on the planet of Ziyun. At that time, his biological parents had already passed away many years ago. At that moment he could completely understand the difficulties that his father had faced. At some point, a jade token had appeared in Zhou Donghuang's hand. On the front of the jade token were carved 3 lifelike figures: a handsome young man, a beautiful young lady, and a baby lying in the arms of the lady. On the back 3 names were carved. The name Zhou Donghuang was the largest, taking up almost half of the back of the jade token. On the other half of the jade token 2 other names were carved: Zhou Haoyan Zhugajing. Father, mother, in my previous life I could not save you in time. In this life I will definitely save you in time, and I will not let anything happen to you. Looking at the jade token in his hand, Zhou Donghuang could not help but feel a stabbing pain in his heart as he thought about what had happened to his biological parents in his previous life. That was also one of his greatest regrets in his previous life. In his previous life, not long after he had left Earth, his father's primordial spirit had self-destructed, and his mother had followed closely behind. And Master, third senior sister, senior brother Qinghong, since I am back, I will not let the tragedy repeat itself. All the regrets in my previous life, in this life, I will not let them happen again. At this moment, Zhou Donghuang's gaze was filled with determination. In my previous life, the death of my mother Lin Lan was also a great regret in my heart. When the crazy culprit took me away, it was not even 7 days after my mother's death, and I was keeping vigil for her. This time, I have returned from 1,000 years in the future to help Mother resolve the matter of the formula being leaked, so she will not die of anger like she did in my previous life. Thinking that he had made up for this regret, Zhou Donghuang heaved a sigh of relief. In his previous life, Zhou Donghuang had only spent 1,000 years to become invincible in the universe, and he had battled the strongest of the thousands of races in the universe. He had been recognized as an unparalleled talent in the world of practice. However, very few people knew that he had so many regrets in his heart that he did not dare to take another step forward in his practice. This was because if he took another step forward, he would have to face the tribulation of becoming a god. The tribulation of becoming a god was also known as the tribulation of God. Not only him, but many other strong practitioners of the same level of practice as him did not dare to take that step lightly. Once one took that step, he would attract the tribulation of God, and if he could not overcome it, he would die and turn into dust. Only by overcoming it could he ascend to the legendary divine realm and become a god, immortal and living as long as the heavens and the earth. No matter how big the universe was, it was ultimately just a mortal world. Only by ascending to the divine realm and becoming a god could one truly transcend the mortal world. I am not afraid of the tribulation of God in the beginning if I can overcome it with brute force. But the tribulation of demons of the heart is not something that can be overcome with brute force. I had too many regrets in my previous life, and I basically had no chance of overcoming the tribulation of demons of the heart. Zhou Donghuang was very clear on this point. The tribulation of demons of the heart targeted the weakest part of the person undergoing the tribulation. Because of this, he had never taken that step, because he had no confidence that he would be able to overcome the tribulation of demons of the heart. However, overcoming the tribulation successfully, transcending the mortal world and ascending to the divine realm had always been his dream. In this life, I not only want to make up for the regrets of my previous life, but I also want to leave no regrets behind. I, Zhou Donghuang, in this life, will ascend to the divine realm and make all the gods in the divine realm tremble in fear at the mention of my name. Zhou Donghuang's eyes suddenly shone with a strong sense of conviction. And this would also be the goal that he would strive for in this life. Young master. Granny Lian's voice came from outside the room, pulling Zhou Donghuang back from his drifting thoughts and causing his eyes to light up. Granny Lian's arrival meant that the 250-year-old blood ginseng had arrived. After opening the door and receiving the 250-year-old blood ginseng from Granny Lian, Zhou Donghuang stated his other request. Granny Lian, please get a serving girl to help me prepare a bathtub and bathwater. I'm going to take a bath. All right. Granny Lian replied and went to get a servant girl. Zhou Donghuang intended to use the medicinal bath to break the seal in his body. The seal in his body had been placed by his biological father. And his father was a very powerful being, although not as powerful as he had been at his peak in his previous life, he was still a powerful figure among the thousands of races in the universe. To use brute force to break the seal that his father had placed, one would need to have a higher level of practice than his father. In the past, even the crazy Taoist who could travel through the universe physically, had been unable to use brute force to break the seal in his body. After going to Earth, after some research, the crazy Taoist had found a way to use a medicinal bath to help him break the seal. This was the method that he was going to use now. In the beginning, the crazy Taoist had used many precious herbs, but to no avail. It was only later, after a complicated combination of very common herbs, that the seal in his body had been broken. Through this, it was not difficult to see that Zhou Donghuang's biological father was not a simple person to be able to set up such a strange seal. Next, I need to make a medicinal bath with a bunch of herbs, including the blood ginseng. While the servant girl was preparing the bathwater, Zhou Donghuang spent some effort to make the blood ginseng and other herbs into 6 bottles of medicinal bath. When he had gone to the medicine storehouse earlier, he had conveniently brought out 6 empty bottles that had been left unused. A few servant girls had gone in and out for about a quarter of an hour. After preparing the bathtub and water for him, he poured 2 of the bottles of medicinal bath into the bathtub. When the medicinal bath and water had become one, he took off his clothes and entered the bathtub. Comfortable. Naked, he entered the bathtub and soaked in the warm water. Zhou Donghuang could not help but open his mouth and let out a breath of foul air. His face was full of satisfaction and he felt extremely comfortable. Unknowingly, he fell asleep. He had not been so relaxed in a very, very long time. When he woke up, it was already the early morning of the next day. I've actually finished absorbing it. Zhou Donghuang opened his eyes and looked at the water in the bathtub. He discovered that the water that had been muddied by the medicinal bath had become clear again. This also meant that his body had completely absorbed the medicinal bath. I can feel that the seal in my body has begun to loosen. In order to prevent my body from developing resistance, 2 bottles of medicinal bath a day is already the limit. I'll continue with another medicinal bath tomorrow night. In a flash, Zhou Donghuang used the techniques from his previous life to absorb the lingering spirit in the air and tried to practice. He discovered that the spirit did not dissipate as soon as it entered his body like before. Instead, it stayed in his body for a while before dissipating completely. This was also a sign that the seal in his body had loosened. At this rate, 3 days is enough to completely remove the seal in my body. At that time, I can begin to practice my qi and once again embark on the path of martial arts. Zhou Donghuang walked out of the bathtub with a satisfied expression. After putting on his pajamas, he casually tore off the page of the old calendar from yesterday and went to bed to continue sleeping. On this day, it was the 13th day of the 12th month of the year 1227 in the Ziyun era. Chapter 3. In the morning, Zhou Donghuang went out after eating the breakfast prepared by the servant girl. Although in his previous life after leaving Earth, he had returned to the planet of Ziyun in Qingshan Town had been completely different at that time. Because of the seal in his body, he could not practice for the time being, and since he had nothing better to do, he decided to go out for a walk. Everything before me is really familiar yet distant at the same time. Walking along the streets of Qingshan Town, the shops on both sides of the street, as well as the small stalls in front of the shops, seemed to overlap with Zhou Donghuang's memories from 1,000 years ago. More than 90% of the herbs in this medicine shop are from the Magnolia Guild. I've been here twice to deliver herbs. The iron ore used in this weapons shop is also from the Magnolia Guild. And this shop. Along the way, Zhou Donghuang saw many shops that had a partnership with the Magnolia Guild, and he had personally delivered goods to some of the shops. Young Master Donghuang. Young Master Donghuang. Many people whom Zhou Donghuang could vaguely remember, but whose names he could not recall, came forward to greet Zhou Donghuang. In order to avoid awkwardness, Zhou Donghuang returned their smiles even though he did not remember who they were. Although Qingshan Town was just a small town, it was still very lively. On the streets, there was a steady stream of horses and carriages, and the clamor of hawking and haggling could be heard from the stalls on the side of the street. Zhou Donghuang had only been casually scanning the stalls by the side of the road, but when he saw what was on display at one of the stalls, he was stunned. That is, Zhou Donghuang stopped in his tracks, and his eyes narrowed as his heart skipped a beat. Spirit stone? What attracted Zhou Donghuang's attention was a lamp, and from the marks on it, it was obviously quite old. More accurately, what attracted Zhou Donghuang's attention was the white jade embedded in the lamp. It wasn't an ordinary jade stone, but a spirit stone. Although it was only an inferior-grade spirit stone, Zhou Donghuang was pleasantly surprised to see it here. Spirit stones were special stones formed from ordinary stones that had accumulated a large amount of spirit energy in the world, and they contained a lot of spirit energy. Once one's cultivation reached a certain level, one's progress would be slow just by absorbing the spiritual qi of the world. However, with the assistance of spirit stones, one's progress would be rapid. On a small planet like the Ziyun planet, only the most powerful adepts had the ability to obtain spirit stones and use them to assist in their training. Zhou Donghuang had never imagined that he would be able to see spirit stones in Qingshan town. This was something that he did not even dare to dream of. Even if spirit stones had appeared in the country of Yunyang, he would find it inconceivable, let alone in Qingshan town. An inferior-grade spirit stone, if it contains sufficient spirit energy, in a short time, I can use it to break through to great consummation of the qi gathering and become a great consummation adept with the strength of 9 oxen and 2 tigers. At this thought, Zhou Donghuang's eyes lit up. Great consummation of the qi gathering was the highest stage of the qi gathering. Adepts of great consummation of the qi gathering could exert the strength of 9 oxen and 2 tigers once their qi was released, and their power was unstoppable. The qi gathering was divided into 9 levels of perfection. Level 1 of qi gathering, level 2 of qi gathering, level 3 of qi gathering, all the way to level 9 of qi gathering. There was still petty consummation and great consummation of the qi gathering. They corresponded to the strength of 1 ox, the strength of 2 oxen, the strength of 3 oxen, the strength of 9 oxen. The strength of 9 oxen and 1 tiger, the strength of 9 oxen and 2 tigers. The strength of 1 ox was about 400 gene of force, and the strength of 1 tiger was about 1000 gene of force. The two could not be mentioned in the same breath. Boss, how much is this lamp? Zhou Donghuang walked to the stall in 2 or 3 steps and picked up the lamp inlaid with the inferior-grade spirit stone. As he reached out to feel the inferior-grade spirit stone, he asked the stall owner behind the stall. This stall was an antique stall. The stall owner was a shrewd-looking old man, and seeing that Zhou Donghuang had taken a liking to the lamp, he immediately grinned. Young Master Donghuang, you are indeed the son of Guild Master Lin, you have good taste, with just one look, you have taken a liking to the best antique in my stall. As the son of Guild Master Lin Lan of the Magnolia Guild, Zhou Donghuang was known to all the shop owners and stall owners in Qingshan town. However, just as the stall owner finished speaking, he saw Zhou Donghuang put down the lamp in his hand with a look of disappointment on his face. Suddenly, his heart skipped a beat, and an ominous feeling rose in his heart. In the end, I was thinking too much. If this inferior-grade spirit stone still had spirit in it, anyone who practiced qi, even if they had not attained level 1 of the gathered qi, would be able to tell that it was extraordinary as long as they touched it. How could it have been my turn to discover it? Just now, when Zhou Donghuang had touched the inferior-grade spirit stone, he had discovered that this inferior-grade spirit stone was just for show, and the spirit in it had long been depleted. Normally, when the spirit in a spirit stone was depleted, it would return to being an ordinary stone. However, the inferior-grade spirit stone inlaid in the lamp had been coated with some sort of transparent liquid, so its appearance did not change as the spirit in it was depleted. It's also because I don't have divine will now, otherwise, I would not even need to feel it with my hand to know that it is a useless spirit stone. Zhou Donghuang shook his head, stood up, and left immediately, leaving behind a dumbfounded stall owner. He really could not understand. Why had this young master of the Magnolia Guild been so interested in his goods just a moment ago, and then abandoned them like a pair of worn-out shoes the next moment? Zhou Donghuang, who was a little disappointed, had only taken a few steps when he heard a mocking voice. Hey, isn't this Zhou Donghuang of the Magnolia Guild, young Master Zhou? Zhou Donghuang recovered his wits and looked in the direction of the voice. With one glance, he saw a youth dressed in embroidered robes about his age, standing in the distance, looking at him with a mocking expression. You are Wang Feng? The youth before him gradually overlapped with someone in Zhou Donghuang's memory. The first young master of the Wang family of Qingshan town, Wang Feng. Wang Feng, only 16 years old, had already mastered the strength of 400 gene of qi, and was expected to master the strength of a bull before the age of 20, attain level 1 of the gathered qi and become an adept. He was a rare martial prodigy of the Wang family. In his previous life, whenever he went out alone and met Wang Feng, he would be bullied by Wang Feng, but Wang Feng did not dare to go overboard. After all, his mother was the guild master of the Magnolia Guild. And even though he suffered every time, he had never told his mother about this, because he did not want her to worry. Although Wang Feng had not attained level 1 of the gathered qi, he had a certain level of attainment in the practice of qi, and in terms of ability he had already surpassed many adults. In his previous life, Zhou Donghuang had been restricted by the seal in his body and had been unable to practice qi, so he was naturally no match for Wang Feng. What? Our young master Zhou doesn't even recognize me? Wang Feng grinned. It looks like Qin Dandan's betrayal was a great blow to you, to the point that you don't even recognize me. Come to think of it, your Magnolia Guild will be finished in a few days, and without this background, what difference is there between you, Zhou Donghuang, and a useless person? Wang Feng's words shocked many passers-by. The Magnolia Guild will be finished in a few days? Is that true? This is first young master Wang Feng of the Wang family of Qingshan town. Since he said it, it must be true. Young master Wang Feng, did you receive some news? A group of passers-by looked curiously at Wang Feng. Everyone, I'm afraid you don't know. The adopted daughter of the guild master of the Magnolia Guild, Qin Dandan, leaked the formula for the blood-staunching elixir given to the Magnolia Guild by the Lin family of the prefecture capital to the Sunset Guild. Faced with the questions of the passers-by, Wang Feng spoke with assurance. The formula for the blood-staunching elixir is not simple. The blood-staunching elixir produced is 30% more effective than ordinary blood-staunching elixirs on the market. Once it appears in Qingshan town, it will be enough to monopolize the high-end market for blood-staunching elixirs in Qingshan town. It is said that the Lin family of the prefecture capital paid a great price to invite an intermediate-level medicine master of the Lin family to develop this formula. The Magnolia Guild leaked this formula. Do you think the Lin family of the prefecture capital will let Lin Lan off? How could the Magnolia Guild not be finished? As he spoke, a brilliant smile appeared on Wang Feng's face, as if he could not wait for the Magnolia Guild to close down immediately. He had overheard this news through the conversation between his father and an elder of the Wang family when he passed by the main hall of the Wang family. If that's really the case, the Magnolia Guild is doomed. I never thought that Qin Dandan would be so ungrateful. I heard that she used to be an orphan living on the streets, and it was President Lin Lan who kindly adopted her. That's why she's here today. President Lin Lan has really raised an ingrate. After hearing Wang Feng's words, the group of passers-by was filled with righteous indignation and felt indignant for Lin Lan. You're quite well informed. Zhou Donghuang glanced at Wang Feng and said calmly, however, whether the Magnolia Guild is finished or not is not up to you, Wang Feng. With that, Zhou Donghuang continued walking forward, his gaze retracting from Wang Feng, completely ignoring him. In his previous life, Wang Feng often bullied him. But now in his eyes, it was just child's play. If he were to get angry at Wang Feng over this, he would have lived all these years in vain. However, Zhou Donghuang wanted to leave, but Wang Feng obviously did not intend to let him go. As he passed by, Wang Feng stretched out his hand to block his way. Zhou Donghuang, did I say you could leave? Wang Feng, I'll give you one chance. Immediately take your hand back. Zhou Donghuang's eyes narrowed and a cold light flashed in them. His originally calm voice now revealed a hint of coldness. Even a clay figurine had its limits. If this Wang Feng continued to pester him, he did not mind teaching him a lesson that would leave a deep impression. I won't take it back. I want to see what a piece of trash like you can do to me. Wang Feng smiled, a very bright smile. Zhou Donghuang, a piece of trash who had not even developed qi, a piece of trash who he had toyed with like a toy, dared to threaten him? Not taking it back? Seeing that Wang Feng did not take his words to heart, Zhou Donghuang smiled coldly. In that case, I'll help you take it back. Chapter 4. Whoosh. Without waiting for Wang Feng to react, Zhou Donghuang had already moved forward like lightning, grabbing Wang Feng's wrist with one hand and his shoulder with the other. In the next moment, Zhou Donghuang's muscles exploded with all the strength he could muster, pouring it into his hands that were grabbing Wang Feng's wrist and shoulder. Kacha, kacha, kacha. A series of crisp sounds of bones breaking rang out, and the crowd of onlookers could not help but feel their scalps go numb and their hair stand on end. Ah! As the victim, Wang Feng let out a blood-curdling screech like a pig being slaughtered, and immediately fainted. He fainted just like that? Zhou Donghuang raised an eyebrow and said disdainfully, useless. As he spoke, Zhou Donghuang stepped over Wang Feng's unconscious body and left, leaving behind an enigmatic silhouette for the onlookers to see. Wang Feng lay unconscious on the street, one of his arms twisted into a knot as if it had no bones. Just now, Zhou Donghuang's move was like twisting a fried dough twist, forcefully tying the entire arm that Wang Feng had used to block him into a knot. In this process, the bones in Wang Feng's arm had been completely broken and shattered by Zhou Donghuang's strength, and it was completely crippled. At least, on the planet of Ziyun, there was no way to repair Wang Feng's broken arm. Only when Zhou Donghuang's silhouette disappeared did the crowd of onlookers regain their senses, and they all gasped. This young Master Donghuang of the Magnolia Guild has such power? My God! To be able to twist the arm of the Wang clan's first young master like this, just how strong must he be? Didn't they say that he was a martial invalid who could not cultivate qi? Is this something that a martial invalid can do? Looking at Wang Feng's twisted arm lying on the ground, many onlookers felt a chill run up their spines, and their bodies trembled. Wang Feng isn't just the most beloved son of the Wang clan's clan head, he's also the most beloved grandson of the Wang clan's old clan head. For him to be crippled just like that, there's no way the Wang clan will let this matter rest. In the past, the Wang family might have been wary of the Magnolia Guild, but now the Magnolia Guild is in a precarious situation and could collapse at any time. They might not be able to protect Zhou Donghuang. Whether the Magnolia Guild will collapse is still uncertain. At present, it is only Wang Feng's side of the story. All I know is that the Wang clan is destined to not be peaceful today. It was just as many people had guessed. As Wang Feng was brought back to the Wang family residence, the atmosphere in the Wang family residence became heavy and somber. Second uncle, is there really no way to cure my arm? In the spacious room, Wang Feng, who had just woken up, was shocked to learn that his family had unanimously decided to chop off his right arm. Wang Feng's second uncle, Bamboo Crane Wang, was an inferior-level medicine master. Faced with Wang Feng's longing gaze, he shook his head lightly. Feng, if your arm was only broken, even if it couldn't be completely healed, I was confident that I could heal you by 80 to 90%. But now, the bones in your entire arm have been crushed and twisted. Even if a superior-level medicine master were here, I'm afraid he would be powerless, much less an inferior-level medicine master. Bamboo Crane Wang sighed. Moreover, if you don't chop off your arm in time, the blood will flow back and affect the rest of your body. No. Wang Feng was so agitated that he jumped off the bed. He wanted to escape like a madman, unwilling to have an arm chopped off. I don't want to. Bang. In the end, it was Red Crane Wang, the chief of the Wang family, who knocked his son out with a single blow. Second brother, let's begin. From the beginning to the end, Red Crane Wang's expression was extremely ugly. His son was the most talented direct descendant of the Wang family in 100 years. He had a bright future and was expected to lead the Wang family to greater heights. And now his right arm was crippled, which meant that his son's future was completely ruined. Zhou Donghuang. Red Crane Wang walked out of the room and stared in the direction of the Magnolia Guild, his eyes full of murderous intent. You crippled my son's arm, Red Crane Wang will take your life. After a while, Bamboo Crane Wang walked out of the room. Big brother, Feng Er's injury has been treated. What do you intend to do about this? Do you want to go to the Magnolia Guild directly and denounce them, or do you want to wait for father to return? Bamboo Crane Wang asked Red Crane Wang. Let's wait for father to return first. If we go now, we are not afraid of Lin Lan, but we have to be afraid of the elusive level 2 adept of Qi gathering from the Magnolia Guild. Red Crane Wang said gravely. Both he and his second brother were only level 1 adepts of Qi gathering. In the Wang family there was only one level 2 adept, and that was his father, the previous chief of the Wang family. Moreover, when father returns, the Sunset Guild will probably have lost the support of the Lin family of the prefecture capital. If nothing unexpected happens, Lin Lan will be expelled from the Lin family. At that time, the level 2 adept of Qi gathering from the Magnolia Guild will definitely return to the Lin family. A mere Lin Lan won't be able to protect that little brute. As he spoke, Red Crane Wang's voice became colder. Big brother, isn't that Zhou Donghuang a good-for-nothing who can't even practice Qi? To injure Feng, or like that, even if it was a sneak attack, his hands would have to have at least 300 or 400 gene of strength. Bamboo Crane Wang was puzzled. Most likely Lin Lan used some rare treasure on him to increase his physical strength, so there is nothing to worry about. Red Crane Wang said indifferently. Let's go back. After strolling around Qingshan town for the entire morning, Zhou Donghuang returned to the Magnolia Guild at noon. As he passed by the drawing room, Zhou Donghuang heard Granny Lian's pleading voice. Third master, I really can't return this money to you for now. When my mistress returns, This money will still have to be invested in making the blood-staunching elixir. Who in Qingshan town doesn't know the current situation of the Magnolia Guild? Your formula has been leaked to the Sunset Guild, which means that the blood-staunching elixir produced by the Magnolia Guild will no longer be able to monopolize the market, and it will be very difficult to earn high profits. A voice full of vigor followed. Furthermore, as far as I know, that formula belongs to the Lin family of the prefecture capital. Now that such a precious formula has been leaked, the Lin family will not let Guild Master Lin off lightly. In my opinion, the Magnolia Guild will not survive for long. Now if I don't get my money back, in a few days, I'm afraid it will really be for naught. Hearing this, Zhou Donghuang raised his eyebrows. Although it was a long time ago, he still remembered it clearly. After the Magnolia Guild gave the Lin family 90% of their monthly profits, if they wanted to expand their business further, they would need to borrow money from outside. Of course, the high interest rate for borrowing money from outside was considered a normal expense of the Magnolia Guild, and this was permitted by the Lin family. The Lin family would not give them money directly. Not just the Magnolia Guild but the other guilds under the Lin family were the same. I remember, although the Magnolia Guild borrows money from outside, it usually only borrows money from one person. That person is the owner of Yunxian Restaurant, the richest man in Qingshan town, Zhao San. Just now Granny Lian called him Lord San. It seems that he is Zhao San. As he pondered, Zhou Donghuang walked into the drawing room. As soon as he entered, he saw a middle-aged man sitting cross-legged on an armchair at the side of the room, playing with two pearls in his right hand that were obviously of great value. The middle-aged man was dressed in a luxurious robe, his face as smooth as jade, and he had a small mustache on his chin. His eyes shone with shrewdness. Really is Zhao San. Although he had been to Zhao San's Yunxian restaurant a few times in his previous life, he had never seen the owner, because Zhao San rarely showed himself. However, he had never seen Zhao San in person, but he had seen a portrait of him because a portrait of Zhao San had hung on the wall of the Great Hall on the first floor of Yunxian Restaurant. In my memory, this Zhao San is not only a level 2 adept of Qi gathering, but he seems to be a direct descendant of the governor's household of the prefecture capital, and he has a powerful background. The distant memories slowly unfolded in Zhou Donghuang's mind. Young master. Seeing Zhou Donghuang enter, Granny Lian hurriedly greeted him and then looked at Zhao San, who was sitting cross-legged at the side of the drawing room. Lord San, we have successfully overcome this crisis. I can assure you that nothing will happen to the Magnolia Guild. Oh. Zhao San looked at Granny Lian with interest. Then I would like to hear how the Magnolia Guild will overcome this crisis. If we can really overcome this crisis, my money will continue to be with the Magnolia Guild. Zhao San picked up the teacup on the table and took a sip, then slowly put it down, waiting for Granny Lian to speak. Just as Granny Lian was about to reveal the matter of the new formula for the blood-staunching elixir, Zhou Donghuang spoke first. Zhao San, if I am not wrong, you were once a level 4 adept of Qi gathering? As Zhou Donghuang spoke, his deep gaze fell upon Zhao San. When Zhou Donghuang entered, Zhao San had only glanced at him casually, not even looking at him. But now, hearing Zhou Donghuang's words, he looked at Zhou Donghuang in disbelief. How did you know? Apart from himself, there was only one other person who knew that he had broken through to level 4 of Qi gathering. That person was his elder brother. He had not told anyone about this, and his elder brother could not possibly have spread the news. It's not hard to tell, Zhou Donghuang said calmly. It's a pity that when I broke through to level 4 of Qi gathering, I went berserk. Not only did I not successfully attain level 4 of Qi gathering, but I regressed back to level 2 of Qi gathering, and there is no way for me to regain my previous level 3 of Qi gathering. I'm not wrong, right? Just now, when he had first seen Zhao San, Zhou Donghuang had noticed something was wrong with his slightly bulging temples. With his foresight, which had stood at the pinnacle of the universe in his previous life, it was not difficult for him to see what was wrong with Zhao San's body. Chapter 5. Just as Zhou Donghuang finished speaking, Zhao San stood up from his armchair and stared at Zhou Donghuang gravely. You are the son of Guild Master Lin who is unable to practice Qi, Zhou Donghuang? He had guessed Zhou Donghuang's identity when Granny Lian had addressed Zhou Donghuang as young master. How about it? Do you want to regain level 3 of Qi gathering? No. I should ask you, do you want to regain level 4 of Qi gathering? Zhou Donghuang asked unhurriedly as he looked at Zhao San meaningfully. You have a way? Zhao San's eyes widened as he stared at Zhou Donghuang in disbelief, but there was a hint of doubt in his eyes. From what I know, You can't even cultivate qi, how can you help me? What? You don't even want to try? Zhou Donghuang asked calmly, his expression calm. If you can really help me regain level 4 of qi gathering, no. Even if you can only help me regain level 3 of qi gathering, I will give you all the money I have in the Magnolia Guild. Besides that, I will also give you Yinshan Restaurant. Zhao San said solemnly, making a heavy promise. Yinshan Restaurant? Zhou Donghuang had not expected Zhao San to make such a heavy promise. After all, Yinshan Restaurant was the largest and best restaurant in Qingshan town, and it had an endless stream of customers every day. It was the most profitable business in Qingshan town, second to none. Zhao San had become the richest man in Qingshan town because of the profits that Yinshan Restaurant brought him, and any other business was just a pittance. Compared to the value of Yinshan Restaurant, the money Zhao San had placed in the Magnolia Guild was but a drop in the bucket. Young master. Hearing Zhao San's words, Granny Lian took a deep breath and looked at Zhou Donghuang excitedly. If her young master could really cure Zhao San, then he would have really struck it rich. In the past, if Zhou Donghuang had said he could cure Zhao San of his chronic illness, she would have advised him not to fool around. But ever since she had seen Zhou Donghuang defeat Guild Master Hong Yu of the Sunset Guild without practicing qi, and witnessed Zhou Donghuang produce a blood-staunching elixir that was better than the one made by the intermediate medicine master of the Lin family, she no longer dared to doubt Zhou Donghuang's ability. Zhao San had thought that Zhou Donghuang would be so excited that he would lose his composure after making such a huge promise. He did not expect Zhou Donghuang to remain calm, as if he would be able to maintain his composure even if Mount Tai were to collapse in front of him. In that instant, Zhao San's opinion of Zhou Donghuang rose a few notches. President Lin's son is not simple. Granny Lian, help us prepare a quiet room. Zhou Donghuang looked at Granny Lian and instructed. Granny Lian immediately went to make the arrangements, and after that she watched as Zhou Donghuang and Zhao San entered the quiet chamber together. Granny Lian personally stood guard outside the door, not allowing anyone to come near and disturb the two. However, as she stood guard outside the door, Granny Lian's face was filled with apprehension. She was unsure if Zhou Donghuang could really cure Zhao San's illness. If he could not be cured, then Zhao San might fly into a rage out of humiliation and demand back the money he had deposited with the Magnolia Guild. Ha 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 ha. About an hour later, Granny Lian heard Zhao San's hearty laughter coming from the quiet room. It was as if he had instantly swept away the gloom he had been suppressing for many years. It's done? Granny Lian's eyes lit up. Inside the quiet room. After laughing for a while, Zhao San gradually calmed down and bowed to Zhou Donghuang, whose clothes were drenched in sweat. He said earnestly, Young Master Zhou, Zhao San will never forget your kindness in giving me a new lease on life. I have already cleared the meridians in your body that were blocked by your qi deviation. Go back and practice for 2 or 3 days, and you will officially attain level 4 of qi gathering. Zhou Donghuang narrowed his eyes, his body swaying as he said weakly, If there's nothing else you... Before he could finish, Zhou Donghuang fainted from exhaustion. Young Master Zhou. Zhao San's expression changed, but he heaved a sigh of relief after confirming that Zhou Donghuang was fine and had only fainted from exhaustion. Young Master. Just then Granny Lian also heard that something was wrong and burst through the door. Don't worry. Young Master Zhou, because you helped me clear my meridians, you overexerted yourself and fainted. You will be fine after a short rest. When Young Master Zhou wakes up, please inform Young Master Zhou that I, Zhao San, will visit you another day to express my gratitude. After informing Granny Lian, Zhao San left. Now Zhao San walked like the wind. This was because his level of practice had been restored to level 3 of qi gathering, and if he could accumulate qi for another 2 or 3 days, he would be able to attain level 4 of qi gathering and become a level 4 adept with the strength of 4 bulls. Now Zhao San was anxious to return to practice. Of course, he was anxious to leave the Magnolia Guild and return to practice after confirming that Zhou Donghuang was fine. When Zhou Donghuang woke up, it was already evening. Young Master, you're awake. Granny Lian had been standing guard by Zhou Donghuang's bedside, and she heaved a sigh of relief when she saw that Zhou Donghuang was awake. Granny Lian, I'm hungry. Zhou Donghuang rubbed his empty stomach as he spoke to Granny Lian. Good. I'll get a servant girl to prepare some food for you. Granny Lian immediately left. There's no qi in my body, and I fainted from exhaustion after just performing a massage on Zhao San's acupuncture points. I'm really weak now. After Granny Lian left, Zhou Donghuang smiled bitterly. Zhao San's problem was not serious, and Zhou Donghuang had completely resolved it by performing a massage on Zhao San's acupuncture points. Of course, Zhou Donghuang had helped Zhao San because, from what he remembered from his previous life, Zhao San was a person who could distinguish between kindness and hatred, and was extremely particular. Otherwise, if it had been an ingrate, Zhou Donghuang would not have had the time to help him. Young master, before Zhao San of Yunxian restaurant left, he asked me to tell you that he will come back another day to thank you. Granny Lian returned to Zhou Donghuang's room after instructing a servant girl to prepare some food. Young master, did you really cure his chronic illness? Even now, Granny Lian still could not believe it. That was Zhao San of Yunxian restaurant, known in Qingshan town as someone who could see through the heavens. If it had been an ordinary chronic illness, he would have been cured long ago, and there would have been no need for her young master to treat him. Zhou Donghuang nodded. I used a special technique to help him unclog the meridians that were blocked by his qi deviation, allowing his level of practice to return to level 3 of the gathered qi. Based on his current condition, he only needs 2 or 3 days of practice before he can smoothly attain level 4 of the gathered qi and become a level 4 adept. Granny Lian, that Zhao San has a strong background. Rumor has it that he is a direct descendant of the governor's household of the prefecture capital? In Zhou Donghuang's opinion, Granny Lian would definitely know more about these matters than he did. This was because Granny Lian had been with the Lin family of the prefecture capital for a long time, and had only come to Qingshan town with his mother. I've only heard this rumor. Granny Lian shook her head. However, it is most likely true, otherwise he would not have been able to keep Yunxian restaurant in Qingshan town open for so many years. Yunxian restaurant is a profitable business in Qingshan town, and even the Magnolia Guild and the Sunset Guild combined do not earn as much as it does. Moreover, unlike the Magnolia Guild and the Sunset Guild, Yunxian restaurant does not have to hand over 90% of their profits to the families behind them. It is Zhao San's personal business, and all the money he earns belongs to him. Although Yunxian restaurant was only a restaurant in Qingshan town, its daily profits were enough to attract the attention of the large families of the prefecture capital. However, from the day Yunxian restaurant opened for business until today, no one had dared to have any designs on it. Therefore it was not difficult to guess. The owner of Yunxian restaurant, Zhao San, was not a simple character. Granny Lian, what level would a level 4 adept be in the prefecture capital? Zhou Donghuang asked Granny Lian. In his memory, the strongest people in Qingshan town were the few level 2 adepts of qi gathering. The owner of Yunxian restaurant, Zhao San. The elderly members of the local Wang family and a few other families. The Magnolia Guild and the Sunset Guild each had a level 2 adept holding the fort. Young master, in the prefecture capital, there is only one level 5 adept of qi gathering, and that is the governor of the governor's household. In the Lin family of the prefecture capital that supports the Magnolia Guild, the strongest are only 3 level 4 adepts. Therefore, a level 4 adept would be considered a strong man even in the prefecture capital, and would be able to support a preeminent family. Granny Lian said. The power in the country of Yunyang was basically dominated by the families. The imperial family was the largest family. Below them was the royal household. Below them were the great barons, the grand families, the preeminent families, and the lesser families. The families in Qingshan town that had level 2 adepts, including the Wang family, could barely be considered lesser families. If Zhao San is really a direct descendant of the governor's household of the prefecture capital, now that he has recovered his level of practice, he will definitely return to the governor's household. The governor's household would not allow a level 4 adept to stay in a small place like Qingshan town. Granny Lian said. Zhou Donghuang and Granny Lian chatted for a while, and a few servant girls brought in food. Zhou Donghuang, who had been starving for a long time, wolfed down all the food and got Granny Lian to instruct the servant girls to prepare a bathtub and bath water. Today was his second day in the medicinal bath to further break the seal in his body. Comfortable. Soaking in the bathtub, Zhou Donghuang quickly fell asleep and did not wake up until the next morning. After discovering that the medicinal liquid in the bathtub had been absorbed by his body, Zhou Donghuang put on his clothes, took off the old calendar and returned to bed. At this moment, it was already a new day. In the Ziyun era, it was now the 14th day of the 12th month of the year 1227. The seal in my body has loosened even more. I'll do it again tonight, and tomorrow morning will be enough to completely break the seal in my body. At that time, I can start practicing my qi and embark on the path of martial arts again. Even with 1,000 years of memories from his previous life, Zhou Donghuang could not help but feel excited at this thought. He was so excited that he did not feel the least bit sleepy. Chapter 6. Although the Qi gathering stage is only the beginning of the martial way, I still need to build a good foundation. This way the road ahead will be easier. Sitting cross-legged on the bed, Zhou Donghuang murmured to himself, "In my previous life, because I was in the Qi gathering stage, I practiced the techniques that were common on the planet of Ziyun, so my foundation was very average. Under those circumstances, even though I had many miraculous encounters and fought with the prodigies of the great galactic clans and supreme sects of the same level, I was barely able to win. In this life, I must choose the best and most suitable cultivation method for me." In Zhou Donghuang's 1,000 years of memories, there were many different types of techniques, enough to dazzle him. The 1,000-star sword technique is the best swordsmanship technique in the universe. If I start practicing this technique at the Qi gathering stage, even if I were to fight with the prodigies of the great galactic clans and supreme sects of the same level, I would still be invincible. The 1,000-star sword technique was obtained by Zhou Donghuang from the space ring of an enemy he had killed in his previous life. It was the ultimate technique of the 1,000-star sword sect. That enemy was the prodigy of the 1,000-star sword sect. If Zhou Donghuang had not had a breakthrough in his level of practice, it would have been difficult for him to kill his enemy. The Fiery Thunder Refinement Regimen is a top-notch body refinement cultivation technique in the universe. It was once the ultimate cultivation technique of a supreme sect. However, that supreme sect was too good at stirring up trouble and was besieged by several large races and supreme sects in the star field. After the sect was annihilated, it disappeared in the long river of history. Although the great galactic clans and supreme sects stood at the peak of the universe, they were not invincible. This was because, although there were not many of them, there were still quite a few of them. Once they incurred the wrath of the masses, it would be difficult to continue. Practicing this fiery thunder training regimen, even if I encounter the prodigies of the great galactic clans and supreme sects who practice the 1,000-star sword technique or other non-body tempering techniques, as long as I can get close to them, I can easily defeat them. Compared to the 1,000-star sword technique, Zhou Donghuang favored the fiery thunder training regimen more. Back then, it was precisely because the fiery thunder refinement technique was so powerful that the supreme sect that possessed it became extremely arrogant. In the end, they made too many enemies and brought about the destruction of their sect. The fiery thunder training regimen was something Zhou Donghuang had obtained by chance in his previous life. Like the 1,000-star sword technique, he had memorized every single word of it. The Records of Sublime Unruffled is an extremely rare top-notch cultivation technique in the universe that focuses on divine sense. In the later stages, it focuses on soul attack. When a person who cultivates the Records of Sublime Unruffled faces a person who cultivates the Fiery Thunder Refinement regimen of the same level, as long as they don't let the opponent get close to them in the beginning, they can use their divine sense to attack the opponent's primordial spirit after increasing the distance. If they find an opportunity, they can even directly destroy the opponent's primordial spirit. However, the requirements to cultivate the supreme unfeeling record are extremely harsh. One must forget all emotions and become an emotionless person. Only in this way would one be able to maintain a firm will and cultivate an invincible divine sense. The supreme unfeeling record was a cultivation technique that Zhou Donghuang had obtained from an ancient mystery realm. It was also rumored to have the highest chance of becoming a god. An emotionless person could completely disregard the inner demons of the godly tribulation. As for the other techniques of the godly tribulation, those who cultivated the supreme unfeeling record were naturally not afraid of them. Zhou Donghuang also memorized the contents of the supreme unfeeling record. These three techniques were all top-notch in the universe. As for other techniques, Zhou Donghuang also remembered quite a few, but they were not as good as these three techniques. Even the best techniques that he had cultivated in his previous life could not compare to these three techniques. Why don't I choose between the 1,000-star sword technique and the fiery thunder refinement regimen to cultivate? Zhou Donghuang muttered to himself, his heart wavering. Although the supreme unfeeling record was better than the 1,000-star sword technique and the fiery thunder refinement regimen, he had no interest in it. What was the point of living for an emotionless person? Why don't I choose the fiery thunder refinement regimen? But the fiery thunder refinement regimen is only good at close combat. I'm at a disadvantage in long-range combat. It's fine if I meet someone who is as fast as me or not as fast as me, but if I meet someone who is faster than me, even if the other party is weaker than me, I can do nothing about it. I can only watch as the other party escapes my sight. The 1,000-star sword technique is suitable for both close and long-range combat, but it completely neglects defense. It's strong in attack and fast in speed, but its weakness is also obvious. This is far inferior to the fiery thunder refinement regimen. In my previous life, the techniques that I practiced were very mixed, so I was good at all aspects, but they were also very mediocre. If not for the near-death experiences that I had that allowed me to be reborn, I would not have been able to fight against the prodigies of the supreme sects in the galaxy. On the path of practice, the techniques could be changed at any time. However, if one did not use the techniques that he had practiced in the past to build his foundation, the techniques that he practiced in the future would always have some flaws. In his previous life, Zhou Donghuang had faced such a problem. However, even though he knew of these problems, he could not solve them. He could not possibly destroy his level of practice, become a normal person and start all over again, could he? That was not realistic. Precisely because he had been at such a disadvantage in his previous life, in this life, Zhou Donghuang wanted to find a technique that was most suitable for him and practice it until the end. Even if he had to settle for the next best thing, he had to build a strong foundation. Only in this way would his future path be smoother. Oh right, how could I have forgotten about this? The Lord of the Four Supremes. In his previous life on Kunlun Mountain on Earth, when Zhou Donghuang had discovered the time-space matrix, he had also discovered a jade scroll that recorded the technique. Recorded in it was a cultivation technique known as the Lord of the Four Supremes method. The Four Supremes in the technique's name referred to the four ancient mythological beasts: the azure dragon, the white tiger, the vermilion bird, and the black tortoise. After memorizing the Lord of the Four Supremes, he had studied the time-space matrix. In the process of studying the time-space matrix, he had been brought back to 1,000 years ago by the power of the time-space matrix. However, the Lord of the Four Supremes technique can only be cultivated to the primordial divinity stage at most, Duan Ling Tian thought to himself. Thinking of the greatest flaw of the Lord of the Four Supremes, Zhou Donghuang could not help but frown. Among the thousands of races in the universe, the cultivation of martial arts was divided into 10 major realms. They were Qi Gathering, Khanate, Primal Core, Dharma, Primordial Soul, Divine Transformation, Divine Separation, Divine Power, Heavenly Being, and Deity Tribulation. In his previous life, Zhou Donghuang had practiced to the Heavenly Being stage, and he had been at the pinnacle of the Heavenly Being stage. In his previous life, when Zhou Donghuang had practiced to the pinnacle of the Heavenly Being stage, he had been able to destroy any star in the universe with a wave of his hand, and with a single thought, he had been able to cover a vast and boundless galaxy. His indestructible primordial soul could even leave his physical body and travel the entire universe. The Lord of the Four Supremes is extremely difficult to practice. Especially after the Khanate stage, it is at least 3 times more difficult to practice than the average person. However, it's fine even if it's difficult. After all, hard work will always be rewarded. After cultivating the Lord of the Four Supremes and reaching the Xiantian realm, I'll be able to fight against a group of people at the same cultivation level as me with just my own strength. What is most difficult to accept is the greatest flaw of this technique. This technique can only be practiced to the primordial soul stage at most. In the future, I will have to rely on my own practice. Zhou Donghuang felt a headache coming on. In terms of building a foundation, the Lord of the Four Supremes was definitely the best. From the Khanate stage to the Primal Core stage, the Lord of the Four Supremes had to condense 4 primal cores to be considered to have truly entered the Primal Core stage. Most adepts who practiced the Lord of the Four Supremes only needed to condense 1 primal core to be considered to have entered the Primal Core stage. However, the Lord of the Four Supremes required the condensation of 4 primal cores. Once one practiced the Lord of the Four Supremes, without the condensation of 4 primal cores, there was no way to enter the next stage of practice. In order to enter the next stage of practice, the only way was to condense 4 primal cores. In other words, when one reached the Primal Core stage and practiced the Lord of the Four Supremes, they could have 4 primal cores in their bodies. Think about it, at the same level of practice, if you had 4 primal cores in your body to provide you with energy, but your opponent only had 1 primal core to provide him with energy, what kind of concept was that? It was the same for the Dharma stage. Only when the 4 primal cores in the body were refined to the extreme would one be able to enter the peak of the Primal Core stage and even break through to the Dharma stage. After entering the Dharma stage, the 4 primal cores will show their different Dharma powers, and they will show the Dharma powers of the 4 ancient divine beasts. One more step, from the Dharma stage to the primordial soul stage, the 4 primal cores and their respective Dharma powers will merge into one, and the primordial spirits of the 4 ancient divine beasts can be formed. The Azure Dragon Primordial Spirit specializes in soul attacks. The White Tiger Primordial Spirit specializes in close combat. The vermilion bird primordial spirit specializes in long-range attacks. The black tortoise primordial spirit specializes in defense. Just the thought of using the Lord of the Four Supremes to train to the primordial soul stage made Zhou Donghuang's eyes light up, and he was filled with anticipation. Using the Lord of the Four Supremes to train to the primordial soul stage, he would be able to use the primordial spirits of the four divine beasts to fight. How powerful would that be? Why don't I just train in the Lord of the Four Supremes? Although there are no further training methods, can't I, Zhou Donghuang, study other methods to perfect it? Although this will be very stressful. But if there is no stress in life, what difference is there between living and being a salted fish? At this thought, Zhou Donghuang took a deep breath, and on the morning of the 14th of December 1227 of the Ziyun era, he made a decision that would affect his entire life. He would train in the Lord of the Four Supremes. Of course, Zhou Donghuang had chosen the Lord of the Four Supremes mainly because it would allow him to have four primordial spirits, and they would be the primordial spirits of the four ancient divine beasts. The primordial spirits of the four divine beasts worked together and had almost no weaknesses. Otherwise, he would not have chosen a technique that would only allow him to train to the primordial soul stage. Now, I just have to wait for the next medicinal bath to completely remove the seal. Then I can officially train in the Lord of the Four Supremes and embark on the path of martial arts once again. After making his decision, Zhou Donghuang's eyes were filled with anticipation. Chapter 7. The next day Zhou Donghuang woke up early in the morning. After tonight, the seal in his body would be completely removed, and he would once again embark on the path of martial arts. Although the spirit on Ziyun was much richer than on Earth during the end of time, it would still take some time for him to attain level 1 of the gathered qi. Practicing step by step is too slow. I still need to take some shortcuts. In his previous life, Zhou Donghuang had stood at the pinnacle of all the races in the universe. Apart from his exceptional martial ability, he had also achieved a high level of proficiency in alchemy. The art of alchemy referred to the art of refining pills. Only those who had attained the primal core stage and above could practice alchemy. This was because only those who had attained the primal core stage and above possessed essential core, and the samadhi fire required for alchemy could only be produced by essential core. Those who had attained the primal core stage and below, no matter how deep their understanding of the art of alchemy, could only be considered medicine masters, and not core forging masters. Medicine masters were divided into inferior, intermediate, superior, earthly, and heavenly levels. In the country of Yunyang, superior-level medicine masters were highly sought after, even in the imperial court of Yunyang, and the imperial court had to worship and serve them well. As for earthly-level medicine masters, there were none in the country of Yunyang, and even if there were, they would not remain in a small place like Yunyang. As for heaven-level medicine masters, there had never been one in the history of the country of Yunyang. Without attaining the primal core stage, there is no way to refine the qi-gathering elixir. But even so, I can still formulate the qi-gathering elixir through the combination of some herbs. The qi-gathering elixir was an elixir used by adepts of the gathered qi to assist in their practice. After taking it, it could increase the sensitivity to qi and increase the speed of practice. The qi-gathering elixir was very precious, and usually only those who were well off could afford it. There are also qi-gathering elixirs in the country of Yunyang, but the ordinary qi-gathering elixirs in the country of Yunyang that are widely available on the market only increase the sensitivity to qi by 50% and increase the speed of practice by 50%. Even the best qi-gathering elixir in the country of Yunyang, formulated by a superior-level medicine master from the imperial court, can only double the sensitivity to qi and double the speed of practice. And it is 10 times more expensive than ordinary qi-gathering elixirs. And in my memory, the best qi-gathering elixir made from the formula can increase the sensitivity to qi by 10 times and increase the speed of practice by 10 times. After 2 days, Zhou Donghuang once again visited the pharmacy of the Magnolia Guild. After obtaining some of the common herbs he needed, he went to look for Granny Lien. Granny Lien, does the Chamber of Commerce have these herbs? Before Zhou Donghuang had come to find Granny Lien, he had already written down all the herbs he needed on a piece of paper, and now he passed it directly to Granny Lien. Colorful snake flower, purple water chestnut leaf, earth ganoderma that is over 50 years old. Granny Lien felt her scalp go numb as she looked at the list of rare herbs on the paper. This was because the value of these herbs was no less than the 250-year-old blood ginseng that she had given Zhou Donghuang. Young master, only half of these herbs can be found in the treasure storehouse of the Merchant Association. Granny Lien smiled bitterly. After witnessing Zhou Donghuang's astonishing methods, she did not dare to question any of his decisions. Every decision made by the young master had to be reasonable. On Earth, Granny Lien would now be Zhou Donghuang's diehard fan, and the most loyal kind. Only half. Zhou Donghuang frowned. The herbs he had listed were all herbs that could possibly appear in Qingshan town. He had not written down the more precious herbs that could not possibly appear in Qingshan town. Which ones? Zhou Donghuang asked. If he could only gather half, then he would have to settle for the next best thing and formulate a slightly inferior qi-gathering elixir. As Granny Lien named the other half of the herbs, Zhou Donghuang sighed inwardly. With these herbs and the herbs I just took out from the pharmacy storehouse, I can only formulate a qi-gathering elixir that increases the sensitivity to qi by 2 times and increases the speed of practice by 2 times. Too slow. But that's all I can do for now. No one knew what Zhou Donghuang was thinking. If anyone else knew what he was thinking, they would be so angry that they would vomit blood. In the country of Yunyang, even the best qi-gathering elixir formulated by the superior-level medicine master of the imperial court could only increase the sensitivity to qi by 2 times. It was not hard to imagine. If word got out that Zhou Donghuang had formulated a qi-gathering elixir that could increase the sensitivity to qi by 2 times in a small place like Qingshan town, it would certainly cause a huge uproar in the country of Yunyang. It's finally done. With Granny Lien's cooperation, Zhou Donghuang only took an hour to formulate a qi-gathering elixir that could increase the sensitivity to qi by 2-fold after obtaining the rare herbs that he needed. Now everything is ready except for the final push. After completing the qi-gathering elixir, Zhou Donghuang waited for night to fall. Once night fell, he could begin his last medicinal bath. Ziyun era, December 15, 1997, early morning. It's done. Zhou Donghuang had not slept during the medicinal bath the night before, but had been focused on waiting for the seal in his body to be completely lifted. Finally, in the early morning of the next day, the seal in his body was lifted. At this moment, even though Zhou Donghuang had 1,000 years of memories from his past life, he could not help but feel excited. It was only after he had dried himself, put on his clothes, and returned to bed that he gradually suppressed his excitement. Sitting cross-legged, Zhou Donghuang swallowed a bottle of qi-gathering elixir and began to practice. Lord of the Four Supremes. Zhou Donghuang followed the Lord of the Four Supremes practice route in his memory and began to practice, absorbing the spirit in the air. Because of the foundation from his past life, Zhou Donghuang's practice was smooth, and with the help of the qi-gathering elixir, he absorbed spirit at a very fast rate. The spirit of the planet of Ziyun is indeed incomparable to that of Earth during the Age of Chaos. At this rate of practice, it feels like I will be able to smoothly attain level 1 of qi-gathering in a month at most. If Zhou Donghuang's thoughts were known to others, they would surely be shocked. Even in the history of the country of Yunyang, the heir of the imperial court, who had set the record for being the fastest to attain level 1 of qi-gathering, had taken 2 whole years to attain level 1 of qi-gathering. But now Zhou Donghuang said, he would only need a month to attain level 1 of qi-gathering. Of course, there was a reason why Zhou Donghuang's rate of practice was so much faster than that of the imperial court. First, Zhou Donghuang's father and mother were both extremely powerful practitioners in the universe, so his innate talent could be considered top-notch in the entire universe. Secondly, the qi-gathering elixir he had swallowed could double his sensitivity to qi. Finally, he had 1,000 years of practice experience from his past life, and he knew how to maximize the amount of spirit absorbed and converted it into qi in his body. Furthermore, the Lord of the Four Supremes that he was now practicing could not be compared to the inferior practice methods of the planet of Ziyun. Taking all these factors into account, his rate of practice was naturally far superior to that of the imperial court of Yunyang. Immersed in practice, Zhou Donghuang completely lost track of time. He only awoke 2 days later, his face full of joy. I never thought that after mastering the Lord of the Four Supremes, I would be able to further accelerate the rate at which I absorb spirit and convert it into qi. It looks like I won't need a month, at most in 10 days to half a month, and I will be able to attain level 1 of qi-gathering and become a level 1 adept with the strength of a bull. At that time, combined with the extreme strength of all the muscles in my body, even if I do not use any martial arts techniques and only rely on brute force, I will be able to kill a level 2 adept with one blow. After the pleasant surprise, Zhou Donghuang began practicing again. However, this time, he had not practiced for long before he was startled by Granny Lien's voice. Young Master, Master San of Yunxian Restaurant is here. Zhao San? After being startled awake, Zhou Donghuang's eyes flashed and he subconsciously muttered, "It looks like that Zhao San has successfully attained level 4 of Qi Gathering." Zhou Donghuang once again met Zhao San in the drawing room of the Magnolia Guild. Zhao San had brought another person with him, and standing behind him was a middle-aged man with a goatee and a shrewd look, dressed in a tang suit from Earth. This time, as soon as Zhou Donghuang entered the drawing room, Zhao San hurriedly stood up from his armchair and saluted Zhou Donghuang with a respectful expression. "Young Master Zhou." Even now, Zhao San could not hide the joy in his eyes. "It looks like your level of practice has been restored to its original state." Zhou Donghuang smiled faintly. "It's all thanks to young Master Zhou." Hearing Zhou Donghuang mention this, Zhao San's face lit up, and he took out a thick piece of paper that was obviously very special and handed it to Zhou Donghuang. "Young Master Zhou, this is the title deed to Yunxian Restaurant. From today onwards, Yunxian Restaurant belongs to you, young Master Zhou." Zhou Donghuang did not stand on ceremony. He reached out and took the title deed for Yunxian Restaurant. "Thanks." For him now, money was still very important. With money, he would be able to buy more and better herbs to aid his practice and increase the speed of his practice, so that he could leave the planet of Ziyun as soon as possible and conquer the vast expanse of the universe. The title deed was thick in his hand, and Zhou Donghuang only glanced at it briefly before stuffing it into his pocket, his expression as calm as ever. It was as if what he had just stuffed into his pocket was not the title deed to the most profitable business in Qingshan town, but an insignificant piece of scrap paper. Chapter 8. Young Master Zhou, this is Chief Steward Li, who usually helps me manage Yunxian Restaurant. In the future, if young Master Zhou does not wish to manage the restaurant yourself, you can leave it to him. Seeing Zhou Donghuang put away the title deed to Yunxian Restaurant, Zhao San introduced the middle-aged man behind him. "After I leave, he will continue to stay at Yunxian Restaurant and listen to young Master Zhou's orders." Chief Steward Li Xian of Yunxian Restaurant pays his respects to young Master Donghuang. The middle-aged man cupped his hands and bowed respectfully to Zhou Donghuang. Zhou Donghuang nodded slightly, then looked at Zhao San. "Next, you intend to leave Qingshan town and return to the governor's household in the prefecture capital?" Zhao San nodded. "Looks like young Master Zhou already knows that I am from the governor's household." "That's right, I will set off today and return to the governor's household in the prefecture capital. If young Master Zhou has time in the future, you can come to the governor's household in the prefecture capital to look for me, and I will be sure to treat you well," Zhao San said with a smile. "Also, as I promised before, the money that I left with the Magnolia Guild belongs to young Master Zhou from this moment onwards." At this point, Zhao San glanced at Granny Lien. Following this, Zhao San chatted with Zhou Donghuang for a while longer, and seeing that Zhou Donghuang was not in the mood to continue chatting, he tactfully left with Li Xian. Under Granny Lien's stunned gaze, Zhou Donghuang returned to his room to practice. "Young Master, he is now the owner of Yunxian Restaurant?" Granny Lien was still in a daze. She felt as if she were in a dream because all of this was so surreal. Outside the Magnolia Guild, Li Xian followed behind Zhao San. "Old Master San, you gave Yunxian Restaurant to him just like that? That is the most profitable business in Qingshan town, and it rakes in money every day." Zhao San nodded. "I will be returning to the prefecture capital soon, and there is no point in keeping Yunxian Restaurant. I owe him a big favor, so I gave him Yunxian Restaurant as a gift to repay him." Third Elder, in the past, Yunxian Restaurant relied on you to support it, so no one dared to have any designs on it. Now that you are gone and Yunxian Restaurant has a new owner, I am afraid that many people will have designs on it. Li Xian looked at Zhao San probingly and asked, "If someone really has designs on Yunxian Restaurant, at that time, do I need to warn them? Although Elder San has left, I still do not allow them to have designs on Yunxian Restaurant?" Hearing Li Xian's words, Zhao San stopped in his tracks and turned to look in the direction of the Magnolia Guild. After pausing for a moment, he retracted his gaze and said lightly, "Since we have already given Yunxian Restaurant to him, whether he can keep Yunxian Restaurant in the future depends on his own ability." Although Zhao San only needed to say one word to dissuade those who wanted to attack Yunxian Restaurant from having any designs on Yunxian Restaurant. However, he did not intend to do that. This was because he had always felt that Zhou Donghuang, who could cure his chronic illness, was no ordinary person. Even though it was rumored that Zhou Donghuang could not practice and was a martial invalid. A martial invalid was able to cripple the first young master of the Wang family, Wang Feng, on the street and twist Wang Feng's arm like a fried dough twist? Thinking back to the news he had heard after coming out of seclusion today, Zhao San was still somewhat shocked. What an interesting fellow. I only hope that after you take over Yunxian restaurant, your performance will not disappoint me too much. Of course, this was what Zhao San thought in his heart, but he did not say it out loud. Depends on his own ability? Hearing Zhao San's words, Li Xian, who was following behind him, suddenly brightened, and a look of greed flashed across his eyes. Of course, Zhao San did not have eyes in the back of his head, so he did not notice this. 2 days later, Zhou Donghuang was once again awakened from his practice. This time it was because his mother, Lin Lan, had returned from the Lin family in the prefecture capital. Not long after her return, Lin Lan came looking for him. "Mother, have you given the formula to the Lin family?" Seeing Lin Lan, a look of gentleness flashed across Zhou Donghuang's eyes. Although Lin Lan was only his adoptive mother, her love for him was no less than that of his biological mother, and even surpassed that of many biological mothers. Because of him, Lin Lan had remained unmarried. When he was young, he had overheard Granny Lian advise Lin Lan to find a good family to marry, but Lin Lan had vehemently refused. At that time Lin Lan had said, "My life was saved by Donghuang's father. I will never let Donghuang suffer in this lifetime." Obviously, Lin Lan felt that if she were to marry and have children, Zhou Donghuang would suffer. Thus, she had never thought of marrying. Even when Zhou Donghuang grew up and became more sensible, and tried to persuade Lin Lan to marry, Lin Lan had only brushed him off with a smile. Lin Lan smiled and nodded, but the look she gave Zhou Donghuang was full of complex emotions. Just now, when she had returned, she had heard from Granny Lian some of the things that had happened during her absence from the guild. First, her son had cured the chronic illness of the owner of Yunxian restaurant, Zhao San, so much so that Zhao San had given Yunxian restaurant to her son. Second, her son had been provoked by the first young master of the Wang family, Wang Feng, and had crippled one of Wang Feng's arms. She was not surprised by the latter. After all, her son had previously defeated the guild master of the Sunset Guild, Hong Yu, a level 1 adept of Qi gathering, right in front of her. Wang Feng had not even attained level 1 of Qi gathering, and naturally would not be a match for her son. If there was anything that surprised her, it would be the ruthlessness of her son, who was a completely different person from the obedient child she remembered. The former was what surprised her the most. That Zhao San was no ordinary person, but a direct descendant of the governor's household of the prefecture capital. He must have found many people to treat his chronic illness, but none of them had been able to do so. Finally, it had been cured by her son. For Zhao San to give Yunxian restaurant away meant that her son had indeed done Zhao San a great favor. What did the Lin family say? What Zhou Donghuang wanted to know most now was the reaction of the Lin family of the prefecture capital. With his formula, his mother would not only be able to tide over this crisis, but would also be able to obtain some benefits from the Lin family. I don't know yet. Lin Lan shook her head. However, I have already passed the formula to the 4th elder of the Lin family, who has been in charge of liaising with the Magnolia Guild. The 4th elder said that once he has passed the formula to the patriarch will make a decision and then send someone to inform me. The 4th elder? Zhou Donghuang frowned slightly. Mother means that you have not even seen the patriarch? And you have not seen the head elder? That 4th elder, is he trustworthy? He wouldn't have kept the prescription for himself, would he? In the Lin family of the prefecture capital, the true decision-makers were the patriarch of the Lin family and the head elder of the Lin family. Zhou Donghuang was well aware of this. The 4th elder said that the patriarch is in seclusion, and the head elder has gone out. Lin Lan said. Could it be so coincidental? Hearing Lin Lan say this, Zhou Donghuang became more and more suspicious. Surely not? This is not a small matter. Now, seeing the suspicion on Zhou Donghuang's face, even Lin Lan was a little worried, but she still tried to comfort herself. In the face of profit, nothing is impossible. Zhou Donghuang shook his head as he spoke. In his previous life, having lived for 1,000 years, he had seen too many greedy people. As long as the 4th elder of the Lin family had any ulterior motives, he would definitely not miss such a good opportunity. The human heart can't be so evil. I think we should still think positively. Lin Lan said. Of course, although she said this, Lin Lan was still a little worried. After all, even the adopted daughter she had raised for 10 years had betrayed her. It was not entirely impossible that the 4th elder of the Lin family had kept the formula for himself. I hope so. Zhou Donghuang nodded. Naturally, he also hoped that the 4th elder of the Lin family would not have any ill intentions towards the formula his mother had sent over. Otherwise, thinking of this, a cold light flashed in Zhou Donghuang's eyes. Donghuang, now that I'm back, you should tell me, right? Lin Lan stared at Zhou Donghuang with a burning gaze. Obviously, she still remembered what Zhou Donghuang had said to her before she left. At that time, Zhou Donghuang had told her that when she returned, he would tell her where the formula for the blood-staunching elixir had come from, and how he had been able to defeat Hong Yu without practicing his qi. Mother. Zhou Donghuang's expression also became serious at this moment. What I'm about to say to you, you must not tell anyone, not even Granny Lian. Because this matter is of great importance, and it even concerns my personal safety. Zhou Donghuang trusted Lin Lan unconditionally. Therefore, even if he were to tell Lin Lan about his past life, he did not feel that there was anything wrong with it, and it could even prevent Lin Lan from being surprised by some of his shocking actions in the future. Does it involve your personal safety? Lin Lan's expression changed and she shook her head repeatedly. Donghuang, if that's the case, you don't have to tell me, and I don't want to know. I still believe that no matter what has happened to you, you will always be my good child. At this time, Lin Lan was determined not to listen to Zhou Donghuang, obviously frightened by what he had said. Regarding this, although Zhou Donghuang felt helpless, he did not insist. In fact, although telling Lin Lan about these matters was not a bad thing for her, it was not a good thing either. Now that Lin Lan did not want to listen, Zhou Donghuang did not insist. After Lin Lan left, Zhou Donghuang continued to practice. Now the only thing on his mind was to quickly increase his level of practice. Only by becoming stronger would he have the ability to protect himself in this life, as well as the ability to protect the people he cared about. In this life, he would not allow himself to have any regrets. Besides, the reason why he was practicing so hard was also because he desperately wanted to leave the Xian planet and conquer the vast universe. There, he would be able to grow even faster. Besides, there were some people there waiting for him to change their fates. Chapter 9. Big Brother Donghuang. Big Brother Donghuang. Not long after she left, Zhou Donghuang, who had just calmed down to practice, was startled awake by a voice from outside. The voice was young and melodious, belonging to a girl. This voice. Zhou Donghuang opened his eyes and a memory from 1,000 years ago surfaced in his mind, causing his lips to curl into a smile. That year he had been 10 years old. On the street, he had seen a little girl of 5 or 6 being bullied by a few boys about her age, and he had stood up, grabbed one of the boys and beat him up, scaring the other boys away. After that, the little girl often came to the Magnolia Guild to play with him, following behind him and Qin Dandan, calling them Big Brother Donghuang and Big Sister Dandan. Oh, today is the 19th day of the 12th month of the year 1997 in the Ziyun era. On this day in my previous life, Xiaoyu came to ask me out for a meal, but I was in a bad mood because of Qin Dandan's betrayal, and the Magnolia Guild was in danger, so I rejected her. Zhou Donghuang remembered the incident as he opened the door to his room. Outside the door stood a girl who looked to be about 11 or 12 years old. Her skin was delicate, and her features were exquisite. It was not difficult to see that she was a beauty in the making. Qin Xiaoyu was a collateral descendant of the Qin family of Qingshan Town, and her status in the Qin family had been average, but ever since her father had become a level 1 adept and become an elder of the Qin family 5 years ago, she had become the little princess of the Qin family. Big Brother Donghuang, someone is treating us to a meal in the earthly dining booth of Yunshan Restaurant. Come with us. This scene was no different from that of his previous life. Originally, Zhou Donghuang had wanted to reject her as he had done in his previous life, but seeing Qin Xiaoyu looking at him expectantly, he finally relented and agreed. Big Brother Donghuang, when I went to Yunshan Restaurant with my father before, I only went to the human dining booth and never the earthly dining booth. I heard that the earthly dining booth is very luxurious and has more dishes, and the minimum charge is 300 liang of silver. Qin Xiaoyu was very excited on the way to Yunshan Restaurant after leaving the Magnolia Guild. Xiaoyu, who's treating? Zhou Donghuang asked curiously. The earthly dining booth of Yunshan Restaurant was a place that most people could not bear to pay. As the son of the guild master of the Magnolia Guild, he naturally knew a thing or two about. There was no minimum consumption in the lobby. However, private rooms had a minimum cost. The cheapest human-rated private room had a minimum spending of 100 taels of silver. The cheapest earth-rated private room had a minimum spending of 300 taels of silver. Above the earth-ranked private rooms, there was also the best heaven-ranked private room. The minimum expenditure was 1,000 taels of silver. Even when the patriarchs of the lesser families of Qingshan Town went to Yunshan Restaurant to eat, they would at most go to the earthly dining booth. They would only be willing to reserve a heavenly booth at Yunshan restaurant if there were important guests visiting. In Qingshan town, a typical family of 3 would spend at most 180 taels of silver a year. It's Zhong Gang from the Zhong clan. He made a bet with Big Brother Qin Fei, and if he lost he would treat Big Brother Qin Fei to a meal in the earthly dining booth of Yunshan restaurant. Qin Xiaoyu giggled. Big Brother Qin Fei brought me along and told me that I could bring another person with me, and that I could find anyone I wanted. I immediately thought of you, Big Brother Dong Huang. The Big Brother Qin Xiaoyu spoke of was the first young master of the Qin family, Qin Fei, who was a year older than Zhou Donghuang. Whether it was the Zhong family or the Qin family, they were both lesser families of equal standing with the Wang family in Qingshan town, and each family had a level 2 adept of qi gathering overseeing it. Zhou Donghuang felt a surge of warmth in his heart when he heard Qin Xiaoyu's words. This little girl did not forget to bring him along even at such an opportunity. At this moment, Zhou Donghuang even thought of bringing Qin Xiaoyu to the heaven-ranked private room of Yunshan restaurant for a good meal so that she could satisfy her cravings. He was now the owner of Yunshan restaurant, and the entire restaurant was his property, so he did not have to spend money to eat at Yunshan restaurant. Very soon Zhou Donghuang and Qin Xiaoyu arrived near Yunshan restaurant. As the best restaurant in Qingshan town, Yunshan restaurant was located in the bustling center of Qingshan town, occupying a vast area that was no less than the family mansions of any of the families in Qingshan town. Led by Qin Xiaoyu, Zhou Donghuang walked with her to an earth-ranked private room on the second floor. As they entered Yunshan restaurant, Zhou Donghuang saw Chief Steward Li Xian, whom he had met 2 days ago. Li Xian was at the front desk with his head lowered, doing accounts, and did not see Zhou Donghuang. I guessed long ago that Xiaoyu would definitely go to the Magnolia Guild to look for you, Zhou Donghuang. As he followed Qin Xiaoyu into the private room, Zhou Donghuang heard a familiar yet distant voice from his memory. It was the first young master of the Qin family, Qin Fei. Now in the private room besides Qin Feiyang, there were 3 other people, all of whom Zhou Donghuang could recall by name. They were the first young master of the Zhong family, Zhong Gang, the second young master, Zhong Yi, and the third young mistress, Zhong Xiu. Of course, besides the 6 of them, there were also 2 servant girls standing to one side, serving them tea at any time. This was a standard feature of the earth-ranked private rooms of Yunshan restaurant. Little sister Xiaoyu, why did you bring him here? In 2 days he will no longer be in the same world as us. When Zhong Xiu saw Zhou Donghuang, a look of disdain flashed across her eyes. As the third young mistress of the Zhong family, Zhong Xiu had heard about Qin Dandan's betrayal and the crisis that the Magnolia Guild was facing. What do you mean by not in the same world? No matter what happens, Big Brother Donghuang will always be my big brother. Qin Xiaoyu glared at Zhong Xiu in a bad mood, and said in a somewhat unhappy manner. Everyone who comes is a guest. Let's take a seat, they should be here to serve the dishes soon. Just as the atmosphere in the private room was becoming awkward, Qin Fei spoke up. Qin Xiaoyu held Zhou Donghuang's hand as they walked to the table and sat beside her. In this process, Zhou Donghuang could clearly see that Qin Fei's gaze, which had inadvertently swept past him, flashed with an almost imperceptible cold light, and there was a tinge of jealousy in that cold light. This Qin Fei is interested in Xiaoyu? As a man, Zhou Donghuang could naturally see through Qin Fei's thoughts, and he felt a chill in his heart. If he remembered correctly, Xiaoyu was only 11 years old this year? This Qin Fei was a beast. Zhou Donghuang, I heard that you maimed Wang Feng on the streets a few days ago? Zhou Donghuang had just sat down when Zhong Yi, who was sitting beside Zhong Xiu, asked with narrowed eyes. Yes. Zhou Donghuang nodded. He was in my way and I asked him to withdraw his hand, but he wouldn't listen, so I could only help him. Zhou Donghuang's words were spoken casually, as if maiming Wang Feng's arm was a trivial matter. In fact, in his eyes, it was indeed a trivial matter. Zhong Yi had not expected Zhou Donghuang to answer him this way, and his eyes narrowed subconsciously, the corners of his mouth twitching uncontrollably. Zhou Donghuang, do you know? Red Crane Wang, the chief of the Wang family, has already spread the word that he will use your life as compensation for maiming his son's arm. Zhong Gang reminded as he looked deeply at Zhou Donghuang. Is that so? Zhou Donghuang was somewhat surprised. I have not heard of this, but I have not left the Magnolia Guild these few days, and I have not seen him come looking for me. He's probably just joking, right? As Zhou Donghuang spoke, he picked up the cup of tea that a servant girl had just poured for him and took a sip, his expression as calm as ever. Zhou Donghuang, are you really stupid or just pretending? Zhong Xiu laughed coldly. Now you have the Magnolia Guild as your backer, and the Wang family will not dare to touch you lightly. Do you think the Lin family of the prefecture capital will let the Magnolia Guild off just because the formula was leaked? In another 2 days, the Lin family will definitely send someone to expel your mother, Lin Lan, from the Lin family, and at the same time recall the level 2 adept of Qi gathering from the Magnolia Guild. At that time, the Magnolia Guild will only exist in name. Do you think the Wang family will let you off? Your mother, Lin Lan, is a mere level 1 adept of Qi gathering. Can she protect you? As she spoke, the cold smile on Zhong Xiu's face deepened. Big brother Dong Huang. Sitting beside Zhou Dong Huang, Qin Xiaoyu's expression changed. Although she had heard some of the rumors, she was still young and did not know that Zhou Dong Huang was facing such a difficult situation. Zhou Dong Huang, although your mother Lin Lan is a level 1 adept of Qi gathering, the Wang family has no less than 5 level 1 adepts of Qi gathering, and even a level 2 adept. Zhong Yi looked at Zhou Dong Huang and grinned. The Magnolia Guild will lose the support of the Lin family of the prefecture capital and will cease to exist. At that time, how will you fight against the Wang family? This is my problem, you don't have to worry about it, Duan Dong Huang said calmly. Duan Dong Huang said calmly. From the beginning to the end, his expression was calm, and there was not even the slightest change in his expression. Whether it was Zhong Xiu or Zhong Yi, both of them felt powerless but had nowhere to exert their power. Just then there was a knock on the door. It was the head chef of Yunxian restaurant who had personally come to serve the dishes, and with every dish he served, he would recite a story. However, just as he was about to recite the story of the second dish, he was rebuked by Zhong Gang. We are here to eat, not to listen to your nonsense. Leave us. The head chef acknowledged and retreated. After the dishes had been served, Qin Fei invited the crowd to eat as if he were the host. I don't come to this earthly dining booth more than twice a year. Qin Fei, it's all thanks to your treat this time that I can once again taste the delicacies of this earthly dining booth. Zhong Yi spoke incoherently as he buried his head in his food. As soon as he said this, Qin Fei's expression changed. Zhong Xiu and Zhong Gang, who were sitting beside Zhong Yi, also frowned slightly, and Zhong Xiu even kicked Zhong Yi, startling him out of his reverie. At this moment, Zhong Yi also realized that he had said the wrong thing and he looked embarrassed. Big brother Qin Fei, isn't this Zhong Gang's treat? Didn't you tell me that he lost a bet with you, so he's treating? Qin Xiaoyu looked at Qin Fei with a puzzled expression, and Qin Fei smiled awkwardly. Xiaoyu, Zhong Gang and I have been good friends for many years, and the bet was just a joke. It doesn't matter who treats. Zhou Dong Huang raised an eyebrow. At this moment, if he still could not tell that this was a feast at Hongmen targeted at him, then he would have lived for nothing. Chapter 10. From the moment they had entered the earthly dining booth of Yinxian restaurant, the 3 members of the Zhong family had taken turns to criticize Zhou Dong Huang. Every word they said was a reflection of Zhou Dong Huang's current predicament. At first, Zhou Dong Huang had thought that the 3 of them had done this casually. However, now that he found out that Qin Fei was the one treating, he guessed that Qin Fei had purposely brought Qin Xiaoyu over to watch him make a fool of himself. The motive was obvious. It was to belittle his image in front of Qin Xiaoyu, so that she would not cling to him as she had done before. Because Qin Fei liked Qin Xiaoyu. And a man's possessiveness made Qin Fei unable to accept Qin Xiaoyu being close to another man. As such, he had naturally become a thorn in Qin Fei's side. After thinking this through, Zhou Dong Huang laughed to himself, what a little kid who hasn't grown up yet. At this moment, Zhou Dong Huang seemed to have forgotten that he was only 16 years old, and Qin Fei was 1 year older than him. Brother Dong Huang, I've long heard that you can't practice Qi. How did you manage to destroy Wang Feng? You should know that Wang Feng's ability is not much weaker than mine and Zhong Gang's. Qin Fei asked curiously as he looked at Zhou Dong Huang. As Qin Fei spoke, not only Zhong Gang, Zhong Yi and the Zhong siblings, but even Qin Xiaoyu looked at Zhou Dong Huang curiously. Obviously they were all curious about this. Zhou Dong Huang could not practice Qi, and was a martial invalid. This was no secret in Qingshan town. Although I can't practice Qi, I still have some brute force. Zhou Dong Huang unceremoniously swept through the herbs on the table as he spoke. From beginning to end he did not even look at Qin Fei. Seeing that Zhou Dong Huang had casually brushed him off, Qin Fei's expression darkened, but he still forced a smile. As far as I know, Wang Feng has made some progress in practicing Qi, and he has at least a few hundred gene of strength. Even if Wang Feng was careless, normal brute force would not have been able to twist his arm into a knot, right? That can only mean that his arm is too weak. Zhou Dong Huang said. Zhou Donghuang, for you to have such great strength, it must be because President Lin Lan went around looking for treasures to strengthen your body, right? Zhong Yi looked at Zhou Donghuang intently. If not, you would not have such brute strength. Zhong Xiu snorted coldly and said, no wonder Qin Dandan betrayed President Lin Lan. It turns out that she is so biased towards you. Zhong Xiu hadn't even blurted out the word heart when she shut her mouth again. This was because Zhou Donghuang had stopped sweeping the dishes on the table and was staring at her with an ice-cold gaze. Zhou Donghuang's cold gaze gave her immense pressure, and she did not have the courage to continue speaking. If you mention Qin Dandan again, I don't mind tying a knot on your arm. Zhou Donghuang slowly grinned, revealing 2 rows of snow-white teeth. His icy voice seemed to cause the temperature in the entire room to drop by several degrees. Zhou Donghuang, how dare you? Seeing Zhou Donghuang threaten their sister, Zhong Gang and Zhong Yi immediately stood up and glared at Zhou Donghuang. However, Zhou Donghuang did not even look at them. He continued eating as if they did not exist. This made the 2 of them even angrier out of shame. Sit down, it's rare for us to sit together, why make it so awkward? Zhong Xiu, this is where you are wrong. That Qin Dandan is ungrateful like a street rat. Everyone wants to beat her up. How can you defend her? At this moment, Qin Fei stepped forward to smooth things over. At the same time he gave Zhong Gang and Zhong Yi a look. Only then did the 2 sit back down unwillingly. As soon as Qin Fei finished speaking, he looked at Qin Xiaoyu and asked with a smile, Xiaoyu, am I right? Big brother Qin Fei is right. That Qin Dandan is ungrateful like a street rat. Qin Xiaoyu nodded seriously. At the same time, she looked at Qin Fei gratefully and thanked him in a low voice. Big brother Qin Fei, thank you for helping big brother Donghuang out just now. Xiaoyu, don't mention it. Your friends are my friends, Qin Fei replied in a low voice. In his heart, he was overjoyed because this was the effect he had wanted. Otherwise, why would he have stepped forward to help Zhou Donghuang out of his predicament? Although Zhou Donghuang had been able to cripple Wang Feng, he felt that it was because Wang Feng had been careless. Zhong Gang and Zhong Yi had joined forces, and even he had not been a match for them. He did not think that Zhou Donghuang would be a match for them. Although Qin Xiaoyu and Qin Fei's whispered conversation was not loud, Zhou Donghuang still heard it clearly. The Lord of the Four Supremes that he practiced was an extremely powerful technique. Besides improving his level of practice, it could also improve his physical fitness in all aspects. Although he had not yet attained level 1 of the gathered qi, his hearing had improved significantly. Hypocrite, Zhou Donghuang thought to himself. It was not difficult for him to see that Qin Fei was trying to please Qin Xiaoyu. The atmosphere in the booth fell silent once again. Brother Donghuang. Finally, it was Qin Fei who broke the silence and asked Zhou Donghuang, let's be serious. Do you think that the Magnolia Guild will be able to survive this ordeal? Are you serious? Zhou Donghuang was stunned at first, but then he smiled. I like to be serious. The next moment, under the gaze of Qin Fei and the others, Zhou Donghuang said seriously, I don't really care whether the Magnolia Guild can survive this ordeal. All I care about is my mother's safety. Zhou Donghuang was speaking the truth. The Magnolia Guild was, to put it bluntly, his mother working for the Lin family. No matter how much money she earned, 90% of it belonged to the Lin family. The remaining 10% finally reached his mother's hands, but she had to invest it again to earn more money. If she did not have enough money, she would have to find a way to borrow money herself. All these years, his mother had not had a good day's rest for the Magnolia Guild. Perhaps, without the Magnolia Guild, his mother would be able to rest a little. You don't care? Who would believe that? Zhong Xiu sneered. Ha! Oh, this is definitely the funniest joke I've ever heard in my life. Zhong Yi laughed heartily. Zhou Donghuang, without the Magnolia Guild, you will have no background. Now you rely on the Magnolia Guild's background and people call you young Master Donghuang. Without the Magnolia Guild, you are just a martial invalid who cannot practice qi. Who would respect you then? Zhong Gang said disdainfully. Why is it that no one believes a few words of truth these days? Zhou Donghuang shook his head and let out a long sigh. His expression carried a sense of loss, as though he had lost a confidant. Brother Donghuang, why didn't I realize before that you were so humorous? Qin Fei tried to smooth things over again. What? Even you don't believe me? Zhou Donghuang asked Qin Fei. Qin Fei looked at Zhou Donghuang, then looked at Qin Xiaoyu and said helplessly, It's not that I don't believe you, brother Donghuang, it's just that what you've said is hard to believe. If that's the case, What if I told you that even if that level 2 adept of the Wang family came looking for me personally, I would be able to kill him with a single slap? Zhou Donghuang asked Qin Fei again. You don't believe me either? Qin Fei was stunned. Qin Xiaoyu was dumbstruck. The two servant girls at the dining table were also shocked by Zhou Donghuang's words. Ha, ha. Meanwhile, the three Zhong siblings burst into laughter in unison. Their laughter was so loud that it filled the entire room and even caused some of the lighter plates on the table to tremble. Zhou Donghuang, I think you've gone mad because you can't accept the fact that the Magnolia Guild is about to collapse? Zhong Xiu laughed so hard that tears streamed down her face. Zhou Donghuang, you're so good at bragging. Why don't you just say that you and the owner of Yinshan Restaurant, Elder Zhao San, are brothers and that you can eat here for free? Zhong Yi was rocking back and forth with laughter. That's right. Aren't you good at bragging? Why don't you brag a little louder? Zhong Gang laughed in agreement, looking at Zhou Donghuang as if he were a monkey. You've hit the nail on the head. Zhou Donghuang looked at Zhong Yi and said in all seriousness, I can really eat for free at Yinshan Restaurant. However, the reason I can eat here for free is not because Zhao San and I are brothers, but because I am the owner of Yinshan Restaurant. Zhou Donghuang spoke very seriously. Ha ha. The three Zhong siblings laughed even harder as if they could not stop. The owner of Yinshan Restaurant was the richest man in Qingshan Town, Zhao San. That was an ironclad fact, but now Zhou Donghuang was saying that he was the owner of Yinshan Restaurant? Could anything be more ridiculous than that? This Zhou Donghuang must have really lost his mind. When Qin Fei looked at Zhou Donghuang again, his eyes were filled with disgust. What? Qin Fei, you still don't believe me? Zhou Donghuang asked Qin Fei. Brother Donghuang, let's stop here. Qin Fei shook his head, his voice no longer as warm as before and much colder. He could not even be bothered to respond to Zhou Donghuang. Big brother Donghuang. Just then Qin Xiaoyu also looked worriedly at Zhou Donghuang, wondering if her big brother Donghuang was sick. Otherwise, why would he keep spouting nonsense? Although she was young, she knew that what Zhou Donghuang said was unrealistic and could not be true. Knock, knock. A loud knock came from the door, causing the laughter of the three Zhong brothers to temporarily stop. Qin Fei shouted towards the door, Come in. Guests, your voices are too loud and you are disturbing the guests next door. Could you please lower your voices? The door to the booth opened, and a middle-aged man with a goatee and a shrewd gleam in his eyes walked in. Chief Steward Li Xian. The moment they saw the middle-aged man, the three Zhong brothers stood up as if they were sitting on pins and needles, and Qin Fei also pulled Qin Xiaoyu to her feet. The three Zhong brothers as well as Qin Fei, all bowed respectfully to the man who had just arrived. Although Li Xian was only a junior chief steward, he was the chief steward of Yinshan Restaurant, and he worked for Zhao San, the owner of Yinshan Restaurant. Usually, even their elders would be very respectful to Li Xian. In front of Li Xian, they naturally did not dare to be presumptuous. P.S. This is the third chapter for today. There will be one more chapter today, so the update time will be changed. From tomorrow onwards, there will be a new chapter at 8 in the morning and another at 6 in the evening, all of which will be large chapters of more than 3,000 words. There will be no more chapters in the wee hours of the morning, so that everyone will not stay up late. Chapter 11. So it's first young Master Qin, first young Master Zhong, second young Master Zhong, and third young Mistress Zhong. Although the four people before him were the sons and daughters of the patriarchs of the Qin and Zhong families of Qingshan Town, Li Xian only nodded lightly to them. Usually, even the patriarchs of the Qin and Zhong families treated him with respect, not daring to be presumptuous. A few juniors were nothing to him. Gentlemen, please be quiet. After all, Yinshan Restaurant is not only doing business with you. Li Xian said in a low voice as he looked at Qin Fei and the others. Don't worry, Chief Steward Li Xian, we will be quiet from now on. Qin Fei hurriedly bowed in acknowledgement. The three Zhong brothers also nodded and bowed, forcing smiles on their faces and nodding like chicks pecking at rice. Qin Xiaoyu, who was standing beside Qin Fei, looked at Li Xian with some restraint and fear in her eyes. Usually, when she and her father ate at Yinshan Restaurant, her father would pull her along and bow respectfully to Li Xian when he saw him. Li Xian was the chief steward of Yinshan Restaurant, working for the richest man in Qingshan Town, Zhao San. And Zhao San was a very influential figure in Qingshan Town, and it was said that he had connections with the governor's household in the prefecture capital. Just as Li Xian turned to leave, Qin Fei and the others heaved a collective sigh of relief. Chief Steward Li, how impressive. An indifferent voice abruptly rang out within the room, causing the expressions of Qin Fei and the rest to change. Their bodies even started to tremble from fear. Li Xian, who had just turned away, heard the voice, and although it sounded familiar, he still turned to look in the direction of the voice. With just a glance, Li Xian saw Zhou Donghuang, whose face was half blocked by Qin Xiaoyu, who had stood up. Although he could only see half of Zhou Donghuang's face, Li Xian recognized him immediately. The new boss of Yunxian restaurant. Why is he here? Thinking of his behavior just now, Li Xian's heart skipped a beat, and he looked at Zhou Donghuang uneasily, not daring to make a sound for a long time, like a child who had done something wrong. Zhou Donghuang, how dare you? Zhong Yi glared at Zhou Donghuang and shouted, don't tell me you really think you are the boss of Yunxian restaurant? Zhou Donghuang, I think you've really gone crazy. How dare you act so presumptuously before shopkeeper Li Xian? Today, even if the Magnolia Guild has not fallen, it will not be able to protect you. Zhong Xiu shouted coldly. Zhou Donghuang quickly apologized to shopkeeper Li Xian. Otherwise, I will not let you off today. Zhong Gang also shouted angrily, as if he was going to stand up for Li Xian. Zhou Donghuang, I, Qin Fei, have been giving you face by calling you my brother. Who would have thought that you would be so ungrateful? Seeing that Zhou Donghuang had dared to speak to Li Xian in such a manner, Qin Fei, who was deeply afraid of being implicated by Zhou Donghuang, hurriedly drew a line between himself and Zhou Donghuang. If I, Qin Fei, had not treated you in 2 days, your Magnolia Guild would have collapsed, and you would never have had the chance to step into the earthly dining booth of Yunxian restaurant. Now, I order you to apologize to manager Li Xian immediately. Otherwise, don't even think about walking out of this earthly room. Qin Fei looked at Zhou Donghuang with an extremely cold gaze, as if he would immediately attack Zhou Donghuang if Zhou Donghuang dared to refuse. As soon as Zhou Donghuang had spoken, the gazes of Qin Fei and the others had already been fixed on Zhou Donghuang, so they did not see the uneasy expression on Li Xian's face. Big brother Donghuang, Qin Xiaoyu's expression changed as well. She had never imagined that her big brother Donghuang would dare to act so presumptuously before Li Xian. Was he not afraid of offending Li Xian? Shopkeeper Li Xian, my big brother Donghuang has been in a bad mood these few days, and what he said just now was nonsense. Please don't take it to heart. As Qin Xiaoyu spoke, she turned her gaze from Zhou Donghuang to Li Xian, but just as she finished speaking, she was stunned. Because she saw Li Xian looking at her big brother Donghuang with an uneasy expression, as if her big brother Donghuang was some dreadful monster. Smack! A crisp and resounding slap rang out in the booth, as abrupt as Zhou Donghuang's earlier words, without any warning. It was Li Xian who had moved in front of Qin Fei and given him a fiery slap, causing a black and red handprint to appear on Qin Fei's face. Shopkeeper Li Xian, you. Qin Fei, who was bleeding from the corner of his mouth, looked at Li Xian in confusion, not knowing why Li Xian had hit him. If he remembered correctly, he had been standing up for Li Xian just now, hadn't he? Even if Li Xian wanted to hit someone, he shouldn't have hit him, right? The 3 Zhong siblings had also been attracted by the crisp slap, and when they saw the scene before them, they were also completely stunned. And just at this moment, Li Xian, who had just slapped Qin Fei, ignored Qin Fei. Instead, with a trembling voice, he respectfully bowed to Zhou Donghuang, who was seated inside. Young Master Donghuang, I didn't know you were here. If I had, I would definitely have arranged a heavenly booth for you. This scene caused everyone in the room to be dumbfounded. Heavens, what had they just seen? Li Xian, the shopkeeper of Yunxian restaurant, someone whom even the patriarchs of the 3 great lesser families of Qingshan town had to treat with respect, was actually bowing to Zhou Donghuang? Moreover, Li Xian's humble attitude was inconceivable to them. Could it be that this Zhou Donghuang had some hidden identity that they did not know about? A mere identity as the son of Guild Master Lin Lan of the Magnolia Guild should not be enough for Li Xian to treat him like this, right? Qin Fei and the 3 Zhong brothers were completely thrown into confusion at this moment. Even Qin Xiaoyu was stunned as she stared blankly at this scene. Li Xian, tell them, if I can eat at Yunxian restaurant for free? Zhou Donghuang said lightly. Young Master Donghuang must be joking. Li Xian smiled bitterly. You are now the owner of Yunxian restaurant, who would dare to take your money for a meal at your own restaurant? When Zhou Donghuang had spoken to Li Xian, Qin Fei and the 3 Zhong siblings' hearts had already thumped in unison, and they had a vague sense of foreboding. What Li Xian said next made their premonition come true. Big brother Donghuang is the owner of Yunxian restaurant? Qin Xiaoyu's mouth hung open in shock, and she could not close it for a long time. On the other hand, Qin Fei and the 3 Zhong siblings were dumbstruck. They even wondered if they were dreaming and pinched themselves in unison. The intense pain made them realize that they were not dreaming. For a moment, the four of them looked at each other, seeing the shock and disbelief in each other's eyes. Zhou Donghuang, the son of Guild Master Lin Lan of the Sunset Guild, a martial invalid who could not practice qi. How had he become the owner of Yunxian Restaurant? Wasn't the owner of Yunxian Restaurant the richest man in Qingshan Town, Zhao San? Chief Steward Li Xian, are you mistaken? Isn't the owner of Yunxian Restaurant Elder Zhao San? Zhong Xiu fiercely swallowed her saliva and asked Li Xian. It was as if she was grasping at the last life-saving straw. Li Xian glanced at Zhong Xiu and snorted coldly. Third Master returned to the prefecture capital 2 days ago. Before he left, he gave Yunxian Restaurant to young Master Donghuang. Since 2 days ago, young Master Donghuang has been the owner of Yunxian Restaurant and has taken full control of it. Li Xian's response completely destroyed the last bit of fantasy in the depths of Zhong Xiu's heart. At this moment, it wasn't just Zhong Xiu, Zhong Gang and Zhong Yi who felt their faces burning. It turned out that Zhou Donghuang had not been bragging. He really could eat for free at Yunxian Restaurant. He really was the owner of Yunxian Restaurant. This Zhou Donghuang, what kind of luck does he have? Why would Elder Zhao San give Yunxian Restaurant to him? When Qin Fei looked at Zhou Donghuang again, his eyes were filled with jealousy and hatred, and he was roaring in his heart, what has Zhou Donghuang done to deserve it? Young Master Donghuang, let me take you to the heavenly dining booth. Li Xian said to Zhou Donghuang. There's no need, I'm already full. Zhou Donghuang shook his head and looked at Qin Xiaoyu beside him with a slight smile. Xiaoyu, if you're not full, let Chief Steward Li take you to the heavenly dining booth to continue eating. From now on, whenever you eat at Yunxian Restaurant, you can go directly to the heavenly dining booth. All expenses are on the house. Big brother Donghuang has matters to attend to, so I'll take my leave first. As soon as he finished speaking, Zhou Donghuang stood up. He had not wanted to come in the first place, but now that he was full, it was time to go back to practice. After all, his top priority was still to practice. Nothing else mattered. Before he left, Zhou Donghuang glanced at Li Xian indifferently. Chief Steward Li, did you hear what I said just now? I heard. Li Xian hurriedly nodded his head and looked at Qin Xiaoyu. From today on, whenever this young lady comes to Yunxian Restaurant, you can go directly to the heavenly dining booth. All expenses are on the house. Zhou Donghuang nodded his head in satisfaction and strode out of the earthly dining booth, leaving behind a carefree silhouette. Big brother Donghuang. After Zhou Donghuang left, Qin Xiaoyu could not recover her senses for a long time, as if she were in a dream. As for Qin Fei and the 3 Zhong siblings, their expressions were as unsightly as it could get. Today they had wanted Zhou Donghuang to come over and humiliate him, causing him to lose all face. But now they were the ones who had lost face. Not long after Zhou Donghuang returned to the Magnolia Guild and returned to his room to practice, a piece of news spread throughout Qingshan Town. The owner of Yunxian Restaurant, Zhao San, had left Qingshan Town 2 days ago, and before leaving he had given Yunxian Restaurant to the son of Guild Master Lin Lan of the Magnolia Guild, Zhou Donghuang. Immediately, Qingshan Town was in an uproar. Yunxian Restaurant was the most profitable business in Qingshan Town, raking in money every day. Even the combined earnings of the Magnolia Guild and the Sunset Guild could not match that of Yunxian Restaurant. And now not only had a new owner, that new owner was the infamous martial invalid of Qingshan Town, Zhou Donghuang. That Master Du San gave Yunxian Restaurant to that little B*****starred? When Patriarch Red Crane Wang of the Wang family heard of this, a look of fear flashed across his eyes. How did that little B*****starred get involved with Master Du San? Chapter 12. The stage of Qi gathering was the starting point of martial arts practice. At this stage, one had to absorb the spirit of heaven and earth, assimilate it into the body, and convert it into Qi to store it in the meridians of the body. The meridians of the human body were initially very small and could only hold a small amount of Qi. If he wanted to accommodate more true Qi, he would have to cultivate his cultivation technique to further open up his meridians, making them bigger and wider. When the meridians had been expanded to a certain extent, the Qi accumulated would be able to burst forth with the strength of a bull, and one would be considered to have attained level 1 of Qi gathering. To become stronger, one had to further expand the meridians. So far, I have practiced for 5 days. Now, just the Qi accumulated in the meridians is enough to burst forth with the strength of half a bull. In one of the rooms of the Magnolia Guild, Zhou Donghuang, who was sitting cross-legged on the bed practicing, opened his eyes. I will need at most 5 days to successfully attain level 1 of Qi gathering and become a level 1 adept. Zhou Donghuang's eyes lit up at this thought. Today is the 20th day of the 12th month, 1227 of the Ziyun era. After removing yesterday's old calendar, Zhou Donghuang looked at the new page, and his pupils constricted. In his previous life, it was on this day that someone from the Lin family of the prefecture capital had come to announce the decision of the patriarch of the Lin family. In view of the fact that the Magnolia Guild had leaked the precious formula of the Lin family would no longer support the Magnolia Guild. At the same time, the guild master of the Magnolia Guild, Lin Lan, was expelled from the Lin family. Then his mother, Lin Lan, died of anger. Young master, the Lin family of the prefecture capital has come. Zhou Donghuang's wandering thoughts were completely brought back to the present by Granny Lian's voice. Immediately, he left the room and walked to the drawing room with Granny Lian. Lin Lan, this is a letter from Fourth Elder. Just as the two of them reached the door of the drawing room, they heard a vigorous voice from within. In the drawing room, a middle-aged man dressed in a green robe, looking travel-worn, handed a sealed letter to Lin Lan. Read this letter first, then I'll tell you about the patriarch's decision on you. This is also what the Fourth Elder requested when he handed me the letter before I left. Come to think of it, you should thank Fourth Elder. If not for him, you would have been expelled from the Lin family. The middle-aged man said to Lin Lan after handing the letter to her. By the time Zhou Donghuang and Granny Lian entered the living room, Lin Lan had already finished reading the letter. Her expression turned ugly in an instant, and her body started to sway. Mother, what happened? Zhou Donghuang's expression changed and he reached out to snatch the letter from Lin Lan's hand, but was stopped by Lin Lan. Clan brother, I finished reading the letter. Speak. Lin Lan took a deep breath and said to the middle-aged man, but her eyes were full of anger and unwillingness. In view of the fact that the Magnolia Guild leaked the formula for the blood-staunching elixir given by the family will no longer support the Magnolia Guild from now on. At the same time, we will withdraw the title deed to the Magnolia Guild. You have 3 days to vacate the Magnolia Guild. After 3 days, the family will send someone else to take over and establish a new guild. The middle-aged man said in a deep voice, the patriarch has decided that you, Lin Lan, are not allowed to step into the family again without being summoned by the family. At this point, the middle-aged man paused and shook his head. Come to think of it, Lin Lan, your luck is not bad. Recently, Fourth Elder obtained an even better formula for blood-staunching elixir and handed it over to the family. It was because of this that the patriarch did not expel you from the family. Otherwise, based on your mistakes, it would have been impossible for you not to be expelled from the family. As soon as the middle-aged man finished speaking, Zhou Donghuang's expression darkened, and a murderous glint flashed in his eyes as he clenched his fists tightly. He had guessed correctly. The Fourth Elder of the Lin family of the prefecture capital had indeed coveted the formula his mother had given him, but he had not kept it for himself, but had given it to the family in his name to gain credit and benefit. Granny Lian's expression changed as well. Just as she was about to say something, Lin Lan stopped her and stepped forward at the same time, saying to the middle-aged man, Thank you, Patriarch, for your mercy. The middle-aged man nodded slightly and continued, Next, I have to inform the Level 2 brother stationed here that the family wishes to summon him back. The Level 2 leader of the guards of the Magnolia Guild was a member of the family that the Lin family of the prefecture capital had sent to Qingshan town to guard the Magnolia Guild. Now that the Lin family no longer supported the Magnolia Guild, they naturally would not allow him to remain here. The middle-aged man left the drawing room as soon as he finished speaking. Young lady, why didn't you tell him that the formula for the blood-staunching elixir that Fourth Elder handed over to the family was actually submitted by you? Granny Lian stomped her feet in anger. If Lin Lan had not stopped her, she would have said it herself. Zhou Donghuang also looked at Lin Lan. The weak are no match for the strong. Lin Lan sighed with a bitter smile as she handed the letter in her hand to Granny Lian. Granny Lian opened it and read it, and her expression changed drastically. Shameless. Too shameless. That Lin Tonghong deserves to die. Lin Tonghong was the Fourth Elder of the Lin family of the prefecture capital. Just then, Zhou Donghuang walked over to Granny Lian's side and finished reading the letter. Lin Lan, I know that you have peeked at the formula of the blood-staunching elixir that I have obtained. That is the formula that I am going to hand over to the family. If you dare to spread it in private, even if you are not afraid of death, you should think about your son who is a martial arts invalid. Lin Tonghong's letter did not reveal that he had stolen Lin Lan's formula, nor did it serve to threaten her. It had to be said that this was a brilliant move. Using me to threaten my mother? Zhou Donghuang's lips curled up in a sinister smile as he laughed coldly to himself. You Lin Tonghong, if you hand over that formula to the Lin family will surely reward you handsomely. I'll let you be proud for a few more days. In a few days I will personally go to the prefecture capital, visit the Lin family and meet you, fourth elder of the Lin family. Zhou Donghuang knew that whatever he said to the Lin family now would be useless, because they would not believe him. Of course he could write an even better formula for the blood-staunching elixir in front of them. But what could he do? It would not prove that the fourth elder of the Lin family had stolen his formula. Besides, given Zhou Donghuang's character, he preferred to settle the scores himself when others owed him. Mother, don't worry. I will give you justice in this matter. Zhou Donghuang looked at Lin Lan, his expression serious as he promised. Donghuang, don't do anything foolish. Remember, I only want you to be safe, nothing else is important. Lin Lan forced a smile and said to Zhou Donghuang, furthermore, Patriarch has not expelled me from the Lin family. Although he has taken away my right to return to the Lin family at any time, I am still a member of the Lin family. Zhou Donghuang knew that in this life, besides him and Qin Dandan, what his mother cared about most was her status as a member of the Lin family. Next was the Magnolia Guild. Not long ago, Qin Dandan's betrayal had broken his mother's heart. Now, what his mother cared about was his status as a member of the Lin family. In his previous life, his mother had committed suicide precisely because she had been expelled from the Lin family. And this time, his mother had not been expelled from the Lin family, so naturally she would not seek death like she had in his previous life. Mother, you and Granny Lian pack up these 2 days. In 2 days' time we will go to Yunxian restaurant together. In Yunxian restaurant, besides the dining area at the front that is open to the public, there is a large courtyard at the back that is not open to the public. Zhao San used to live there, but now that he is gone we can stay there. Zhou Donghuang said to Lin Lan. Yunxian restaurant, which Zhao San had given him, had become his next place to stay. This made Zhou Donghuang feel that his decision to treat Zhao San's chronic illness had been the right one. If you hadn't mentioned it, I would have forgotten. My son is now the owner of Yunxian restaurant. Hearing Zhou Donghuang's words, Lin Lan smiled, and her originally listless gaze lit up. After the Lin family had left with the level 2 guard of the Magnolia Guild, Lin Lan gathered a group of servant girls and guards of the Magnolia Guild and asked if they were willing to follow her to Yunxian restaurant. If they were unwilling, they could take 3 months' salary and leave. Although the Magnolia Guild was about to become a thing of the past, Lin Lan did not lack this bit of money. Yunxian restaurant was the most profitable business in Qingshan town, and it was many times better than the Magnolia Guild. In the end, not a single servant girl or guard left, all of them willing to follow. This made Lin Lan feel much more gratified. At the same time, news of the Lin family of the prefecture capital's punishment of the Magnolia Guild gradually spread throughout Qingshan town. In an instant, the whole of Qingshan town knew that the Magnolia Guild was about to collapse. 3 days later, the Lin family of the prefecture capital would send someone to Qingshan town to establish a new guild. The Wang family mansion. In a spacious courtyard. Father, I have privately asked Chief Steward Li Xian of Yunxian restaurant. He said that Zhao San has nothing to do with that little brute Zhou Donghuang, and that Zhao San will not care whether Zhou Donghuang lives or dies. The reason he gave Yunxian restaurant to that little brute seems to be that the little brute did him a favor, and he is returning the favor. Night fell, and Red Crane Wang had just returned from outside when he went to look for his father, the previous chief of the Wang family, Wang Yuquan. Wang Yuquan was also the only level 2 adept of qi gathering in the Wang family, and he had gone on a long journey some time ago and had only returned the night before. Now, the level 2 adept of the Magnolia Guild has been taken away by the Wang family of the prefecture capital, and that little brute Zhou Donghuang can only rely on Lin Lan and the old woman by her side. Just Lin Lan alone can be easily dealt with by second brother and I. The old woman by Lin Lan's side is also a level 1 adept of qi gathering, and I will bring 2 level 1 elders to deal with her. Red Crane Wang explained his plan. I intend to bring some people over tomorrow. Father, you don't have to go, they are not worthy of you dealing with them. He did not mention Zhou Donghuang at all, as if Zhou Donghuang posed no threat to them, level 1 adepts of qi gathering. Of course, this was also because Guild Master Hong Yu of the Sunset Guild cared about his reputation and did not spread the news that he had been defeated by Zhou Donghuang. Otherwise, Red Crane Wang would not have dared to ignore Zhou Donghuang like this. I will bring Feng'er with you tomorrow. Wang Yuquan said coldly, I will leave Lin Lan and the old woman to you. that little brute, I will personally capture him and let Feng kill him with my own hands. Chapter 13. Noon, December 21, 1227 of the Ziyun era. The six of them galloped out of the Wang family mansion on their tall horses, parading through the streets and heading straight for the Magnolia Guild. Finally, the six of them blocked the entrance of the Magnolia Guild on horseback, looking majestic and insufferably arrogant. Their leader was a well-built old man with a face full of white curly whiskers and a head full of short white hair, like a white-furred lion king. Behind the old man were a youth, two middle-aged men and two old men, one fat and one thin. It's the Wang family. A crowd of onlookers had gathered outside, and many of them recognized the six people blocking the entrance of the Magnolia Guild. Isn't that the patriarch of the Wang family, Red Crane Wang? He's actually following behind. Could that old man be the previous patriarch of the Wang family, the bloody-handed butcher, Wang Yuquan? A passerby exclaimed as he stared wide-eyed at the old man leading the group. As soon as he spoke, the onlookers immediately became lively. Wang Yuquan? The bloody-handed butcher who single-handedly wiped out a gang of 100 bandits? I heard that the leader of the bandits was infinitely close to level 2 of Qi Gathering, and he had 5 deputy leaders who were level 1 of Qi Gathering. The 6 of them ganged up on Wang Yuquan, but he killed them instead. Since then, Wang Yuquan has gained the nickname Bloody-Handed Butcher. My goodness. He rarely appears in front of people. But today not only did he appear in front of people, he even blocked the entrance of the Magnolia Guild. It looks like he wants to avenge his grandson Wang Feng. Isn't it obvious? Wang Feng, whose arm was maimed by Guild Master Lin Lan of the Magnolia Guild, is following behind him. The first young master of the Wang family, Wang Feng, followed behind Wang Yuquan, looking at the open entrance of the Magnolia Guild with a bloodthirsty look in his eyes. Zhou Donghuang, you maimed my arm and I'll make you pay with your life today. Wang Feng's heart was completely filled with hatred. Yesterday the news of the Magnolia Guild losing the support of the Lin family of the prefecture capital had just spread, and today the Wang family is here to seek revenge. Looks like the son of Guild Master Lin Lan of the Magnolia Guild, Zhou Donghuang, is in for it today. I heard that the level 2 chief guard of the Magnolia Guild has already returned to the Lin family. Today, even if Wang Yuquan is not here, just the other members of the Wang family will be enough to wipe out the Magnolia Guild. Of course. Behind Wang Yuquan were the patriarch of the Wang family, Red Crane Wang, the second master of the Wang family, Bamboo Crane Wang, and the second and third elders of the Wang family. All 4 of them were level 1 adepts of Qi Gathering. And the Magnolia Guild seems to only have one level 1 adept left, Lin Lan. I heard that the old lady beside President Lin Lan is also a level 1 adept. Even so, he would not be able to stand against the 4 level 1 adepts of the Wang family. Now, many onlookers were already observing a moment of silence for Zhou Donghuang. Isn't Zhou Donghuang the owner of Yunxian Restaurant now? That elder Zhao San gave Yunxian Restaurant to him before he left, so he must be on good terms with him? Isn't the Wang family afraid that elder Zhao San will find trouble with them? Do you think that the Wang family will not think of what you can think of? Since the Wang family dares to block the main entrance of the Magnolia Guild today, it means that elder Zhao San will definitely not help Zhou Donghuang. But I really don't know what elder Zhao San is thinking. Why would he give Yunxian Restaurant to Zhou Donghuang? That is the most profitable business in Qingshan town. Elder Zhao San's thoughts are not something we can fathom. More and more onlookers gathered, and as the news spread, more and more people rushed over from all over Qingshan town. When the other 2 lesser families of Qingshan town received the news, as long as they had nothing important to do, they all rushed over to watch the commotion. The first young master of the Qin family, Qin Fei, also came after receiving the news. It looks like you, Zhou Donghuang, were just lucky to take over Yunxian Restaurant. You don't have any close relationship with elder Zhao San. Seeing that the Wang family had dared to block the main entrance of the Magnolia Guild, it was not difficult for Qin Fei to guess, and he stood in the crowd, gloating. Qin Fei. At the same time, 3 figures appeared in front of Qin Fei. They were the first young master of the Zhong family, Zhong Gang, the second young master, Zhong Yi, and the third young mistress, Zhong Xiu. Evidently, they had all rushed over after receiving the news. What? All here to watch the show? Qin Fei asked with a smile. How could I miss such a good show? Zhong Yi laughed. That day when I heard that Zhou Donghuang had become the owner of Yunxian Restaurant, I thought that he had a close relationship with elder Zhao San, but now it looks like I was overthinking. If he had a close relationship with Elder Zhao San, the Wang family would not have come to the Magnolia Guild with such fanfare. Zhong Gang also had a gloating expression on his face. 2 days ago Zhou Donghuang was so smug at Yunshan restaurant. Today Zhong Xiu want to see how Zhou Donghuang will deal with this. Zhong Xiu laughed coldly. Even the Grand Patriarch of the Wang family, Wang Yuquan, has appeared. In my opinion, Zhou Donghuang will most likely not survive today. This bloody-handed butcher is famous for shielding his people. Qin Fei smiled brightly. But very quickly the smile on his face disappeared. Because he saw a delicate and pretty girl of about 11 or 12 years of age walking towards him, holding the hand of a young man. Qin Fei abandoned the 3 Zhong siblings and went up to greet them. Xiaoyu, Uncle Zhen. The people that had arrived were none other than Qin Xiaoyu and her father, Qin Zhen. Qin Zhen was originally a collateral descendant of the Qin family who did not have much of a presence, but after breaking through to level 1 of Qi gathering a few years ago, he had become the 6th elder of the Qin family. In the 3 lesser families of Qingshan town, as long as a collateral descendant could break through to level 1 of Qi gathering and become a level 1 adept of Qi gathering, an exception would be made for him to be promoted to an elder of the family. First young master. Qin Zhen also greeted Qin Fei. As for Qin Xiaoyu, she only glanced at Qin Fei indifferently and did not greet him. The day before at Yunshan restaurant, Qin Fei had shed all pretense of cordiality with Zhou Donghuang, and she had been very displeased. Xiaoyu. Finally, it was under Qin Zhen's frowning reprimand that Qin Xiaoyu reluctantly greeted Qin Fei. After brushing off Qin Fei, Qin Xiaoyu looked at the group of people at the entrance of the Magnolia Guild, her face full of worry. Father, Big Brother Donghuang is now the owner of Yunshan restaurant, and the Wang family has come to make trouble for Big Brother Donghuang. Aren't they afraid that Elder Zhao San will hold them accountable? Xiaoyu. Before Qin Zhen could speak, Qin Fei had already said, since the Wang family dared to come, it means that they know that Elder Zhao San will not help Zhou Donghuang. Father, is this true? Hearing Qin Fei's words, Qin Xiaoyu looked at Qin Zhen even more worriedly, and when she saw Qin Zhen nod, her face immediately turned pale. Father, can you help Big Brother Donghuang? Qin Xiaoyu begged Qin Zhen. Xiaoyu, even if I want to help him, I am powerless. Among these 6 people of the Wang family besides Wang Feng, I am no match for any of them. Qin Zhen smiled bitterly. Even among level 1 adepts, there were differences in ability. Big Brother Qin Fei, you must have a way, right? Qin Xiaoyu looked at Qin Fei again. For the sake of her big brother Donghuang, she no longer held a grudge against Qin Fei. She only wanted her big brother Donghuang to be safe. Xiaoyu, even the bloody-handed butcher of the Wang family is here. Unless my grandfather intervenes, no one can stop him. Qin Fei also shook his head with a bitter smile. And my grandfather will not offend the Wang family for the sake of Zhou Donghuang. Then, isn't there no hope for big brother Donghuang? Qin Xiaoyu's face was pale, and as she muttered to herself, she seemed to be in a daze. At that moment, there was an explosion of exclamations in the crowd. Someone is coming out. It's Guild Master Lin Lan of the Magnolia Guild. Under the watchful eyes of the crowd, 2 figures walked out of the Magnolia Guild. One was an elegant and beautiful woman, and behind her was an old woman. It was Guild Master Lin Lan of the Magnolia Guild, and beside her was Granny Lien. Father, she is the Guild Master of the Magnolia Guild, Lin Lan. As Lin Lan walked out with Granny Lien, Red Crane Wang, the patriarch of the Wang family, said to Wang Yuquan, who was leading the way. Wang Yuquan had long since retired to the background and had not had any contact with Lin Lan, the Guild Master of the Magnolia Guild who had just arrived in Qingshan town 10 years ago. You're Lin Lan? Wang Yuquan looked Lin Lan up and down coldly. Today I am not here to look for you. Where is your son Zhou Donghuang? Get him out here. Lin Lan greets Patriarch Wang. Lin Lan stood not far from Wang Yuquan and bowed slightly. She continued, Patriarch Wang, you are a senior and must be more understanding. My son Zhou Donghuang was bullied by your grandson Wang Feng every other day, but he never mentioned it to me, his mother. A few days ago, it was your grandson Wang Feng who provoked him first, and that was why he accidentally crippled Wang Feng's arm. If Patriarch Wang does not believe me, you can ask those who were present at the time. Before Lin Lan could finish her sentence, she was interrupted by Wang Yuquan. Don't talk nonsense with me. Whether it's right or wrong, it's up to me. Today if I say he's in the wrong, then he's in the wrong. Get him out here quickly or don't blame me for being rude. As Wang Yuquan finished speaking, he looked at Lin Lan with a cold, murderous look in his eyes. Domineering. Too domineering. At this moment, the onlookers felt their hearts tremble as they felt that Wang Yuquan was too domineering. But they were also clear. Wang Yuquan had the right to be domineering. He was a level 2 adept of qi gathering, and in Qingshan town, there were few people who could stand up to him as an equal, but none who could overpower him. Patriarch Wang, since you feel that my son is in the wrong, then he is in the wrong, but my son's fault is purely because I, as his mother, did not teach him well. As Lin Lan said this, she suppressed the humiliation and anger in her eyes as she gritted her teeth. So, whatever his fault, let me bear it as his mother. Kill or plunder as you wish. Now Lin Lan only had one thought, and that was to protect her son Zhou Donghuang, even if it meant sacrificing her own life. At this moment, the eyes of many onlookers moistened. President Lin Lan seems to be Zhou Donghuang's adoptive mother? In order to protect an adopted son, she did not hesitate to sacrifice herself. She is indeed a role model for a mother. Many onlookers sighed, but they only dared to sigh softly for fear of offending the Wang family. Anti-Lin Lan. Tears streamed down Qin Xiaoyu's face. Ha! Wang Yuquan laughed loudly as he jumped off his horse and only stopped after he landed. How touching. In that case I'll give you Lin Lan a chance. As long as you can take 3 blows from me without dying, I'll spare your son's life today. Chapter 14. In the room, Zhou Donghuang was concentrating on practicing the Lord of the Four Supremes. The meridians in his body were expanding, and the qi accumulated in them was increasing. Suddenly an anxious and panicked shout came from outside the door. Young master! Young master! Grandma Yin? Hearing the voice, Zhou Donghuang's expression changed. He jumped off the bed and ran out of the room. Granny Lian, what's wrong? What happened? Why are you so flustered? Young master, the people of the Wang family are here, led by the level 2 Wang family patriarch, Wang Yuquan, and they are just outside the door. Miss didn't allow me to tell you. She took the 2 of us out. In a few words, Granny Lian explained what had happened outside. When Granny Lian said that Lin Lan was willing to take 3 blows from Wang Yuquan for him, his expression changed completely. Mother. Zhou Donghuang was furious and wanted to rush out immediately, but Granny Lian held him back. Granny Lian, what are you doing? Zhou Donghuang glared angrily at Granny Lian, as if he wanted to devour her. Granny Lian trembled in fear, but she gritted her teeth and said, Young master, I am telling you this because I want to know if you can help mistress out of her predicament. If you can't even deal with that Wang Yuquan, even if I die, I won't let you out. Because before Miss took me out, she told me that as long as there was a chance, she would let me take you away. If you can't deal with Wang Yuquan, I can only take you away. If you insist on leaving, there's only one way out, and that's to step over my dead body. Granny Lian stood in front of Zhou Donghuang, her tone so determined that no one dared to doubt her determination. Lin Lan did not let Granny Lian tell Zhou Donghuang about this matter. She only asked Granny Lian to come back and think of a way to knock Zhou Donghuang unconscious and take him away while she held back the Wang family. Granny Lian had revealed the matter to see if Zhou Donghuang had a way to deal with Wang Yuquan. Although she didn't think it was possible, she still decided to give it a try. After all, this young master had given her too many surprises during this period of time. Granny Lian, come with me. Hearing Granny Lian's words, Zhou Donghuang took a deep breath. After calming his agitated emotions, his eyes shone with murderous intent. Granny Lian's eyes lit up. Looking at the young master's posture, was he really confident? Just as Granny Lian was in a daze, Zhou Donghuang had already bypassed her and was sprinting away at a speed that left a level 1 adept like her in the dust. Young master's speed? Granny Lian's eyes narrowed and her expression was one of shock as she gave chase. Outside the main doors of the Magnolia Guild. Bang! As a level 2 adept of qi gathering, Wang Yuquan's full strength was equivalent to the strength of 2 oxen, and with just one palm he sent Lin Lan flying, crashing into a pillar at the entrance of the Magnolia Guild. She fell heavily to the ground, her breath weak and blood spurting from her mouth. Mother! Zhou Donghuang had just come out when he saw this scene, and his eyes were filled with rage. He immediately ran to Lin Lan's side and poured a bottle of medicine into her mouth. Mother, swallow it. This is the wound-healing powder I concocted. After confirming that Lin Lan's injuries were not life-threatening, Zhou Donghuang heaved a sigh of relief and stood up. His gaze turned cold and landed on Wang Yuquan. Zhou Donghuang. Behind Wang Yuquan, Wang Feng also jumped off his horse and stood beside Wang Yuquan, glaring angrily at Zhou Donghuang as if he wanted to devour Zhou Donghuang. You are Zhou Donghuang? Just then Wang Yuquan's gaze also landed on Zhou Donghuang and he smiled. This foster mother of yours is really good to you. In order to protect you she was willing to take 3 blows from me. It's a pity that after my first blow she couldn't stand up. If I had another blow she would have died without a doubt. You've saved her life by coming out, Yi Zichen said. Otherwise it would not have been just you who would have died today but she too. Wang Yuquan looked at Zhou Donghuang as if he were looking at a dead man, and in his eyes, Zhou Donghuang was indeed no different from a dead man. Donghuang, Lin Lan struggled to stand up, but in her severe injuries she had no strength to do so, and just as she struggled to get up with both hands she fell back down again. Granny Lien, take good care of my mother. Just then Granny Lien came out as well, and Zhou Donghuang turned back to instruct her, his gaze once again landing on Wang Yuquan. Wang Yuquan, is it? Zhou Donghuang grinned, revealing 2 rows of snow-white teeth. Instead of being angry he smiled brilliantly. Today to be able to die at my hands, you have lived a worthy life. Hearing Zhou Donghuang's words, Wang Yuquan was stunned and so was Wang Feng. Everyone else was stunned. No one had expected Zhou Donghuang to say something like that at this moment. From what he said he still wanted to fight Wang Yuquan. Donghuang. Lin Lan's expression changed and she tried to stand up again, but was stopped by Granny Lien. Miss, don't you think? Young master is very confident now? Thinking of Zhou Donghuang's speed just now, Granny Lien could not hide the shock in her eyes. Confident. Lin Lan was stunned and she looked at Zhou Donghuang's back. She saw him standing there with his hands behind his back, unmoving and exuding a strong sense of confidence. Ha! Wang Feng laughed so hard that tears streamed down his face. Zhou Donghuang, I think you've lost your mind after seeing your mother injured so badly. You think you're fit to fight my grandfather? Wang Feng's tone was full of disdain. The onlookers all shook their heads. No one thought that Zhou Donghuang had the ability to fight Wang Yuquan. In Qingshan town Zhou Donghuang was a well-known martial invalid. And Wang Yuquan was a level 2 adept, known as the blood-handed butcher. The two were not even on the same level. In front of the latter the former was like a baby in front of an adult, and the latter could easily strangle the former. If there was anyone else besides Granny Lien who had a glimmer of hope for Zhou Donghuang, it would be a middle-aged man standing in the corner of the crowd. This middle-aged man was the guild master of the Sunset Guild, Hong Yu. This Zhou Donghuang is not so simple. That day he defeated me with at least 1,000 gene of strength. Otherwise I would not have been defeated so badly. Hong Yu still felt a lingering fear when he thought of the day he and Qin Dandan had been defeated by Zhou Donghuang at the Magnolia Guild. He knew very well that this adopted son of the guild master of the Magnolia Guild, Lin Lan, was not so simple. Of course, subconsciously he did not think that Zhou Donghuang could compare to Wang Yuquan. After all, Wang Yuquan was a level 2 adept with the strength of 2 bulls, and he was one of the strongest men in Qingshan town. Qin Fei, do you remember? Zhong Gang looked at Qin Fei. 2 days ago, in the earthly booth of Yunxian restaurant, Zhou Donghuang said that even if the level 2 adept of the Wang family came looking for trouble, he would be able to kill him with a single slap. As he spoke, Zhong Gang began to laugh to himself. Qin Fei wanted to laugh, but when he saw Qin Xiaoyu not far away, he could only hold it in. Zhou Donghuang. Zhong Yi looked at Zhou Donghuang and laughed loudly. 2 days ago, didn't you say that even if the old man of the Wang family came looking for trouble, you would be able to kill him with a single slap? Now you have the chance, how about you demonstrate it to us? Zhong Yi's smile became even more radiant as he said this. I heard that too. Zhou Donghuang will see how you perform next. Zhong Xiu also joined in the ridicule. Big brother Donghuang, does he really have the confidence to deal with this old man of the Wang family? At this moment, reminded by the 3 Zhong siblings, Qin Xiaoyu also recalled what Zhou Donghuang had said in the earthly booth of Yunxian restaurant 2 days ago. At that time her big brother Donghuang had said 3 things that no one believed he could do. First, he had said that he did not care whether the Magnolia Guild closed down. No one had believed him at first, but after learning that he was the new owner of Yunxian restaurant, no one dared to doubt his words. Second, he had said that he could kill the level 2 adept of the Wang family with a single slap, a promise that had not yet been realized. Third, he had said that he could eat for free at Yunxian restaurant and that he was the owner of Yunxian restaurant. These had all been personally verified by Chief Steward Li Xian of Yunxian restaurant and were indeed true. Big brother Dong Huang has done these two things, perhaps big brother Dong Huang can do the last one as well? At this thought, Qin Xiaoyu's eyes lit up with hope. Of course, Qin Xiaoyu was still young and had not started practicing, so there were many things she did not understand. Otherwise she would not have thought of it this way. As the Zhong siblings spoke, the crowd burst into an uproar. This Zhou Donghuang, he actually said something like that? Is he crazy? Was what he said just now not crazy? More and more gazes fell on Zhou Donghuang, but most of these gazes were filled with pity. Most people thought that Zhou Donghuang was crazy. Otherwise, how could he have said something like that? Outside the main entrance of the Magnolia Guild, Zhou Donghuang glanced lightly at the Zhong siblings before turning his gaze back to Wang Yuquan. Make your move. I'm in a hurry to send my mother back to rest. Although Zhou Donghuang's tone was calm, the murderous intent in the depths of his eyes grew stronger and stronger. Lad, you are not worthy of the old patriarch to make his move. Just as Zhou Donghuang finished speaking, a gaunt old man behind Wang Yuquan had already leapt off his horse, his figure sweeping through the air and descending in Zhou Donghuang's direction. Watch me capture you and let first young master kill you personally. As the old man swooped down towards Zhou Donghuang in midair, his right hand stretched out like a claw and grabbed at Zhou Donghuang's neck. Under the watchful eyes of the crowd, Zhou Donghuang's expression did not change, and his body did not move. Finally, just as the old man's hand was about to touch him, he slowly tilted his head to the side. Whoosh! Zhou Donghuang's tilt of his head was like a stroke of genius, causing the old man's hand to grab thin air. Just as the crowd was shocked by this scene, and before they could recover from their shock, Zhou Donghuang's right hand had already swept out like lightning. Bang! His palm rose and fell, leaving a trail of afterimages as it landed on the old man's head. Like a ferocious tiger descending a mountain, the terrifying impact exploded, and the old man collapsed with a thud, completely lifeless. Chapter 15. His ability seems to be even stronger than before. In the crowd, Guild Master Hong Yu of the Sunset Guild swallowed hard, and when he looked again at the youth standing not far away, the fear in his eyes intensified. When the second elder of the Wang family had struck, he had known that the second elder of the Wang family was in trouble. The second elder of the Wang family was about as strong as he was, and if even he had been beaten so badly by Zhou Donghuang, the second elder of the Wang family would not be an exception. But what he did not expect was that, in just one move, Zhou Donghuang had killed the second elder of the Wang family, who was about as strong as he was, and he had demonstrated an even more terrifying ability than that day. Is this Zhou Donghuang really a martial invalid who cannot practice qi? Even though the young mistress of the Hong family of the prefecture capital, Qindandan, had told him this herself, Hong Yu still did not believe it. Now, only Hong Yu, Granny Lian and Lin Lan were sober, and they had all seen Zhou Donghuang's ability. A mere level 1 adept of qi gathering was no match for Zhou Donghuang. But the others were different. Seeing the second elder of the Wang family attack Zhou Donghuang preemptively and be killed by Zhou Donghuang, everyone, including the Grand Patriarch of the Wang family, Wang Yuquan, was shocked into a daze. Second elder. Red Crane Wang, the patriarch of the Wang family, turned pale when he regained his senses. When his attention shifted from the corpse on the ground to the young man, he could not help but reveal a look of disbelief in his eyes. Wasn't this Zhou Donghuang a martial invalid? How could a martial invalid kill the second elder of the Wang family? And the expressions of the other members of the Wang family changed completely. Wang Feng, the first young master of the Wang family, was trembling with fear, and when he thought of how Zhou Donghuang had only maimed his arm that day, he could not help but feel a sense of relief. How is this possible? He killed the second elder of the Wang family? In the crowd, Qin Fei and the three Zhong siblings were stunned. They would never have dreamed that such a thing would happen. Zhou Donghuang, a martial invalid, had killed the second elder of the Wang family, a level 1 adept of qi gathering? Moreover, he had killed the second elder of the Wang family in one move after the first strike? Brother Donghuang. Qin Xiaoyu's eyes lit up. Her fists, which had been tightly clenched due to her nervousness, relaxed at this moment. Qin Zhen, who was standing beside Qin Xiaoyu, had a shocked expression on his face. His contracted pupils were filled with disbelief. The second elder of the Wang family was a level 1 adept of qi gathering who was even stronger than him, but in the blink of an eye he had died at the hands of a youth who was widely regarded as a martial invalid. Was this young man still the martial arts cripple of the past? At this moment, The crowd of onlookers was boiling with excitement. Oh my god. I'm not dreaming, am I? The second elder of the Wang family, a level 1 adept of Qi gathering, died at the hands of Zhou Donghuang? Isn't Zhou Donghuang a martial invalid? How could he kill a level 1 adept? Is it because he was careless? Careless? They were facing each other and could see each other's moves. Zhou Donghuang dodged his attack, but he did not dodge Zhou Donghuang's palm. How is this carelessness? It's clearly the difference in their abilities. When Zhou Donghuang crippled the arm of the first young master of the Wang family, Wang Feng, I felt that it was unlikely that he was a martial invalid. But even so, I never thought that he would have the ability to kill a level 1 adept of Qi gathering. He's only 16 years old and he can already kill a level 1 adept of Qi gathering? Even the most outstanding disciples of preeminent families like the Lin family of the prefecture capital or the Hong family of the prefecture capital might not be able to kill a level 1 adept of Qi gathering at this age, right? Gazes filled with shock and disbelief fell on Zhou Donghuang, causing him to become the focus of everyone's attention. Zhou Donghuang, a 16-year-old youth, had killed the second elder of the Wang family, a level 1 adept of Qi gathering, in just one move. After today, regardless of whether Zhou Donghuang survived, he would become a legend in Qingshan town. I've misjudged you. I never thought that a young youth like you would have such ability. Wang Yuquan looked at Zhou Donghuang intently and said coldly, if you can continue to grow, your future will be limitless. It's a pity that today you're destined to die at my hands. To be able to kill a genius like you while I'm still alive is not a waste of my life. As soon as he finished speaking, Wang Yuquan looked at Zhou Donghuang with a bloodthirsty, murderous look in his eyes. You think you can kill me? Zhou Donghuang laughed brilliantly, as if he had heard the funniest joke in the world. Rascal, since you're so eager to die, I'll send you on your way. Seeing Zhou Donghuang laugh at him, Wang Yuquan's expression turned cold, and with a shake of his body he sprinted towards Zhou Donghuang like a cheetah. In the eyes of the onlookers, Wang Yuquan seemed to turn into a gust of wind, and as he sprinted, he struck out with his palm towards Zhou Donghuang. Donghuang. Lin Lan's heart was in her throat. Young master. Granny Lian looked at Zhou Donghuang's back, her eyes full of anticipation. A mere level 2 adept of Qi gathering dares to talk about killing me, Zhou Donghuang? What a joke. At the same time that Wang Yuquan rushed out, Zhou Donghuang's figure swayed, and he met Wang Yuquan's attack head-on. In the eyes of the onlookers, it was as if Zhou Donghuang had sent himself right into Wang Yuquan's palm. As a level 2 adept of Qi gathering, Wang Yuquan's palm contained the strength of 2 bulls, and it cut through the air, creating a gust of wind. Die. Seeing that Zhou Donghuang had delivered himself to his doorstep, Wang Yuquan sneered and with a cold shout, his palm whistled towards Zhou Donghuang's chest. Donghuang. Young master. Seeing that Wang Yuquan's palm was only inches away from Zhou Donghuang's chest, Lin Lan's expression changed, and Granny Lian's confidence in Zhou Donghuang began to waver. Die. The corners of Qin Fei and the 3 Zhong siblings' mouths curled up into brilliant smiles at the same time. Big brother Donghuang. Qin Xiaoyu's expression changed and beside her, Qin Jin gave a long sigh. Heaven is jealous of the talented. Just as everyone thought that Zhou Donghuang was about to lose his life to Wang Yuquan's palm, whoosh, whoosh. Zhou Donghuang's feet shook as they touched the ground, and he displayed a movement technique. 2 afterimages appeared under his feet, and his entire person was like a ghost as he avoided Wang Yuquan's full-force palm strike that contained the strength of 2 bulls. Never in his wildest dreams did Wang Yuquan expect that his palm would miss. The moment his target disappeared from his sight, his expression changed completely. Now he wanted to retreat, but the force of his palm and the inertia of his body were too great, and he could not stop himself in time. Whoosh. In the instant that Zhou Donghuang avoided Wang Yuquan's thunderous palm, he moved like a ghost again, and in the blink of an eye, he was behind Wang Yuquan, who could not possibly turn around in time. It's over. Zhou Donghuang's gaze was cold and his palms tightened. The maximum strength of his muscles exploded, and the qi in his meridians surged to his palms as he struck Wang Yuquan's neck. Whoosh! Crack! In the instant that his palm struck Wang Yuquan's neck, more than 1,000 caddies of force exploded, and it was as if an iron rod that weighed 1,000 caddies had smashed down, directly breaking his cervical spine. With his cervical spine broken, Wang Yuquan's head fell to his shoulder, and he struggled to turn around. He wanted to reach out to point at Zhou Donghuang, but just as his hand reached out, he had already collapsed, his eyes wide and his face full of indignation. Boom! Wang Yuquan's body landed on the ground, kicking up a cloud of dust. There was a dead silence. At this moment, everyone's gaze fell on Zhou Donghuang, as if they had seen a ghost. The previous chief of the Wang family, Wang Yuquan, who was known as the Bloody Butcher, had been killed by a single palm strike from this young man? Young master, Granny Lian's old face was full of shock. Originally, she had thought that her young master had a chance of standing up to Wang Yuquan and forcing him to retreat. But she had never imagined that her young master had actually killed Wang Yuquan. That was Wang Yuquan, the Bloody Butcher who had made a name for himself many years in Qingshan town, a level 2 adept of qi gathering, and not just anyone. Donghuang. Lin Lan was also shocked. Although she knew that her son's ability was not low, she had never imagined that he would be able to stand up to Wang Yuquan. She had never imagined that he had the ability to kill Wang Yuquan. Moreover, he had killed Wang Yuquan with one palm strike in a direct confrontation. Even if it was because of Wang Yuquan's carelessness, it could not hide the astonishing ability of her son. At least, under the circumstances where Wang Yuquan's palm strike was so close, even other level 2 adepts might not have been able to dodge it. But her son had dodged it. Among the crowd, there was the sound of people inhaling sharply, like the bellows used by the side of a stove, and it took a long time before it gradually stopped. Grandfather. Father. Patriarch. Wang Feng, Red Crane Wang, Bamboo Crane Wang, and the head elder of the Wang family, the remaining 4 members of the Wang family, let out shrill cries of grief as they recovered from the unbelievable scene before them. Wang Yuquan was the pillar of the Wang family. And now the pillar had fallen. Without the support of a level 2 adept, could the Wang family still have its former glory? Just now, when the 6 members of the Wang family had ridden out of the Wang family home, they had looked so impressive, but now 2 of them were dead, and the remaining 4 were like stray dogs, battered and exhausted. Now, do you believe me? After killing Wang Yuquan, Zhou Donghuang glanced at Qin Fei and the 3 Zhong brothers and asked calmly. The expressions of the 4 changed and they did not dare to answer. They lowered their heads, not daring to look at Zhou Donghuang, and at the same time, their bodies began to tremble, afraid that Zhou Donghuang would settle the score with them. Zhong Yi was so frightened that he wet his pants. At the same time, Zhou Donghuang saw Qin Xiaoyu and her father, Qin Zhen, and nodded at them with a smile before turning back to Lin Lan. Mother, I'll send you back to rest. Zhou Donghuang picked Lin Lan up by the waist and returned to the Magnolia Guild, escorted by Granny Lian. Only when Zhou Donghuang's silhouette had disappeared from the sight of the crowd of onlookers did they come to their senses, their faces full of shock and horror. Everything they had seen today had completely overturned what they had known in the past. A 16-year-old youth had managed to kill a level 2 adept in a head-on confrontation. The people of Qingshan town would never forget this day, December 21, 1227 of the Ziyun era. On this day, the son of Guild Master Lin Lan of the Magnolia Guild, the 16-year-old Zhou Donghuang, had killed Wang Yuquan, a level 2 adept, outside the Magnolia Guild and made a name for himself. Chapter 16. In Lin Lan's room. Zhou Donghuang sat on one side of the bed and said sternly to Lin Lan, who was half lying on the bed, "Mother, if you encounter something like this in the future, don't take it on yourself. I can carry my own weight now." Okay. Mother understands. Although Lin Lan's face was still a little pale, her face was full of smiles, and her eyes were full of relief. Yes. Unknowingly, her son had grown up and could carry his own weight now. Young master, young mistress did this because she did not know that you had the ability to kill Wang Yuquan of the Wang family. Granny Lian looked at Zhou Donghuang curiously. Young master, when you dodged Wang Yuquan's palm, did you use a swiftness technique? Just now, when Wang Yuquan had attacked Zhou Donghuang, everyone's attention had been on Wang Yuquan's palm. Only Granny Lian subconsciously glanced at Zhou Donghuang's feet, and saw that Zhou Donghuang's feet had made a miraculous step. Swiftness technique? Hearing Granny Lian's question to Zhou Donghuang, Lin Lan's eyes narrowed, and she looked at Zhou Donghuang in surprise. In the country of Yunyang, martial arts techniques were very rare and precious. In the country of Yunyang, the most widely used techniques were lesser-grade techniques. In the country of Yunyang, only the imperial family and the royal family had third-grade techniques. However, even lesser-grade techniques were not available in a small place like Qingshan town. Even the preeminent families of the prefecture capital had lesser-grade techniques, but only the children of the main family could practice them. Zhou Donghuang nodded. He had indeed used a swiftness technique called the star-stepping footwork, a third-grade swiftness technique. Although he had a lot of martial arts in his memory with his current true qi, he could only perform third-rate martial arts at most. Although he understood second-rate martial arts and even stronger martial arts, the true qi in his body was simply not enough to display those martial arts. Now his level of practice was too low, and although he had a brain full of precious techniques, he could only use third-grade techniques. My current cultivation level is too low, and the true qi in my body is thin. Just now, when I used the third-grade movement martial art star-stepping steps, it consumed 1/3 of my true qi. Zhou Donghuang's heart skipped a beat. After that, I used the third-grade offensive technique weighted sand palm to kill Wang Yuquan. I almost used up all the qi in my body. Moreover, whether it is the star-stepping footwork or the weighted sand palm, the reason why they are so powerful is because of the extreme strength of my muscles. Thinking of this, Zhou Donghuang sighed to himself. His current level of practice was still too low. If he had attained level 1 of qi gathering, using these two techniques would not have depleted the qi in his body. With Zhou Donghuang's confirmation, both Granny Lien and Lin Lan could not help but gasp. They had never imagined that Zhou Donghuang had actually mastered a martial arts technique, and it was one of the rarer swiftness techniques. Of course, it was also because the two of them did not know that Zhou Donghuang was using a third-grade technique, or else they would have been even more shocked. Mother, rest well. When your body recovers, I will pass on the swiftness technique to you. Seeing the shock in Lin Lan's eyes, Zhou Donghuang could understand her feelings and said with a smile, "Is that really possible?" Lin Lan's eyes were filled with yearning, but she was also a little hesitant. After all, she did not know where her son had learned the technique and whether it would be convenient to pass it on to her. The Lin family of the prefecture capital also had a lesser-grade swiftness technique, but it was only an offensive technique, and in terms of value, it was not as valuable as a lesser-grade swiftness technique. However, even so, that martial art could only be practiced by the direct descendants of the Lin family and the elders of the branch families. A collateral descendant like Lin Lan had no right to practice it. But just because she did not have the right to practice it did not mean that she did not yearn for it. Of course. Zhou Donghuang nodded affirmatively and looked at Granny Lien, who was standing at the side. Even if Granny Lien wishes to learn it, I can pass it on to her as well. Young master. Zhou Donghuang's words made Granny Lien extremely excited. That was a martial arts technique, and it was a very precious thing even in the prefecture capital. As far as she knew, lesser-grade swiftness techniques were only available in the governor's household in the prefecture capital. The other preeminent families only had 1 or 2 lesser-grade offensive and defensive techniques at most. In a small place like Qingshan town, a level 1 adept of qi gathering, even if he had only practiced a lesser-grade technique, was enough to defeat any other level 1 adept who had not practiced any martial arts. Martial arts were the ultimate techniques that could be created by the application of qi to an extremely high level. Although it was possible to create one, it was extremely difficult. Even if it was a lesser-grade martial art move, very few people could create it themselves. More people enjoyed the legacy of their ancestors. Granny Lien, take good care of my mother. I'm going out to do some things. Zhou Donghuang waited until Lin Lan had fallen asleep before he stood up and left Lin Lan's room after saying goodbye to Granny Lien. Everyone in Qingshan town knows that I am now the owner of Yunshan Restaurant. Any normal person would think that I have a close relationship with the previous owner of Yunshan Restaurant, Zhao San, and be wary of me, afraid to provoke me, deeply afraid that I have some close relationship with Zhao San. Zhou Donghuang walked out of the Magnolia Guild, his expression still a little ugly as he thought of the day's events. He had never imagined that the Wang family would dare to come seeking revenge. Under normal circumstances, even if the Magnolia Guild had lost the support of the Lin family of the prefecture capital, his status as the owner of Yunshan Restaurant would still have been enough to intimidate the Wang family. But the Wang family had come knocking. This meant that the Wang family might have known something from somewhere. At least, the Wang family must have been certain that Zhao San would not make trouble for them because of him, which was why they had dared to do so. He had to get to the bottom of this. Now, the crowd at the main entrance of the Magnolia Guild had dispersed, and the Wang family had disappeared, taking with them the bodies of Wang Yuquan and the second elder of the Wang family. The Wang family. Zhou Donghuang walked out of the main entrance of the Magnolia Guild and went directly to the Wang family mansion, attracting many onlookers along the way. This young master Donghuang of the Magnolia Guild is going to the Wang family mansion? Looks like today's events are not over. but I never thought that he would have the ability to kill the bloody-handed butcher, Wang Yuquan. To think that we thought he was a martial invalid? If he was a martial invalid, what would we be? A martial invalid who is not even comparable to a martial invalid? Under the watchful eyes of the crowd, Zhou Donghuang came to the main entrance of the Wang family mansion, kicked it open with a loud bang and strode in. However, the passers-by who had followed him did not dare to follow him in. After all, this was the Wang family mansion, and it was not a place that could be entered casually. If Zhou Donghuang entered the Wang family mansion and destroyed the entire Wang family, it would not be a big deal if they followed him in. But if he did not destroy the entire Wang family, the Wang family would definitely not let them off easily. Although they were curious, they did not dare to take the risk. About 15 minutes later, they saw Zhou Donghuang come out, and only came to their senses as they watched Zhou Donghuang's figure disappear at the end of the road. What's going on? He's out so soon? This little bit of time was definitely not enough to destroy the entire Wang family. In a moment, the crowd saw a few more disciples of the Wang family come out, repair and close the main door, and the Wang family mansion was once again peaceful. Yunxian Restaurant. In the heavenly dining booth. Zhou Donghuang sat cross-legged at the dining table, his left hand resting on the thigh of his raised left leg, his right hand on the table, his fingers bent and tapping lightly on the table. In front of him, the chief steward of Yunxian Restaurant, Li Xian, stood there, his face pale and his whole body trembling violently. Li Xian, well done. Zhou Donghuang grinned. Young Master Donghuang, this old servant was wrong. Although Zhou Donghuang was smiling, Li Xian was so frightened that he fell to his knees with a thud, lowering his head in apology. Do you know, because of what you said, my mother is still lying in bed recovering from her injuries? The smile on Zhou Donghuang's face grew wider, but his gaze gradually turned cold, causing the temperature in the booth to drop several degrees in an instant. If I had not gone out in time, she would have died at the hands of Wang Yuquan. He had just made a trip to the Wang family and understood the entire sequence of events clearly. The patriarch of the Wang family, Red Crane Wang, had seen him like a mouse seeing a cat. Not to mention avenging Wang Yuquan, he had even wanted to drag his own son, Wang Feng, before Zhou Donghuang in the name of justice. In response to Zhou Donghuang's question, Red Crane Wang honestly confessed that it was because Li Xian had said that Zhao San would not stand up for him, so the Wang family had dared to block the main entrance of the Magnolia Guild. Young Master Donghuang, this old servant was wrong, please give this old servant a chance to redeem himself. Sensing the murderous intent in Zhou Donghuang's cold tone, Li Xian's body trembled even more, and his voice was filled with fear. On account of Zhao San, I will give you a quick death. Zhou Donghuang rose from his seat, his tone indifferent, deciding Li Xian's fate with a single sentence. Young Master Donghuang, you cannot kill me. You cannot kill me. In the face of death, Li Xian was somewhat panic-stricken. If you do not kill me when my brother from the Li family arrives from the prefecture capital, I can persuade him to go back and not have any designs on your Yunxian Restaurant. If you kill me, he will definitely be determined to get his hands on Yunxian Restaurant. The Li family? The prefecture capital? Looks like you are from the Li family of the prefecture capital. Furthermore, you informed the Li family to come and seize my Yunxian Restaurant? Zhou Donghuang had not expected that Zhao San would leave such a ticking time bomb for him before he left. Of course, he knew in his heart that this was not Zhao San's intention. Otherwise, Zhao San's gifting of Yunxian Restaurant to him would have been an unnecessary gesture. When he had treated Zhao San's chronic illness, he had not made any demands, and it was Zhao San who had insisted on gifting Yunxian Restaurant to him. The Li family of the prefecture capital, like the Lin family of the prefecture capital that backed the Magnolia Guild, and the Hong family of the prefecture capital that backed the Sunset Guild, were all preeminent families of the prefecture capital. But, do you think I would be afraid of your Li family? Zhou Donghuang laughed coldly as he kicked out with his foot, hitting Li Xian squarely in the chest. A terrifying force exploded, and Li Xian flew out like an arrow released from a bow, crashing into the wall with a loud crash. In the next moment, Li Xian's body scraped against the wall and fell heavily to the ground, completely lifeless. Chapter 17. When Zhou Donghuang entered Yunxian Restaurant this time, the group of servant girls and waiters of Yunxian Restaurant looked at him not only with respect, but also with admiration. Evidently, they already knew what had happened at the main entrance of the Magnolia Guild that afternoon. Now that Zhou Donghuang had killed Chief Steward Li Xian of Yunxian Restaurant and walked out of Yunxian Restaurant, The group of servant girls and waiters looked at him with more fear than before, as if he were some dreadful monster. "What's your name?" Zhou Donghuang asked the waiter who had followed him out of Yunxian restaurant as he turned around to see him off. This waiter was also the only person in the enormous Yunxian restaurant who dared to follow him out to see him off. Everyone else's legs were like lead, and they did not dare to move an inch. "Boss, I'm called Ah Fu." The shop assistant was about 17 or 18 years old, tall and well-built, and in response to Zhou Donghuang's question, a simple and honest smile appeared on his face. "Yes. In the next few days, you will be the acting chief steward of Yunxian restaurant, replacing Li Xian in managing Yunxian restaurant. If you do well, you will be the new chief steward of Yunxian restaurant." With that, before Fu could react, Zhou Donghuang had already turned and left. "Thank you, boss." After a shudder, Fu finally recovered his senses and looked at Zhou Donghuang's receding figure from afar, his eyes and face full of excitement. As for the group of waiters and servant girls in Yunxian restaurant, when they heard what Zhou Donghuang had said to Fu, they wanted to slap themselves. Just now, why had they not followed him out like Fu had? However, there was no medicine for regret in this world. Fu's bravery had given him a different treatment. After leaving Yunxian restaurant, Zhou Donghuang went to the Sunset Guild. Young Master Donghuang. In the hall of the Sunset Guild, Guild Master Hong Yu welcomed Zhou Donghuang to the main seat with a humble smile on his face. "I wonder what brings you here." In fact, Hong Yu was still a little apprehensive. He was afraid that Zhou Donghuang would take his anger out on him because Qin Dandan had leaked the formula to the Sunset Guild. With the other party's strength, a single slap would be enough to kill him. "I'll give you 2 days to gather all of these herbs for me." Zhou Donghuang asked for a pen and paper from Hong Yu and wrote down the names of a bunch of herbs. "Of course, I will not shortchange you. If you are unable to gather these herbs within 2 days, in the future, Yunxian restaurant will no longer lend money to the Sunset Guild." After putting down the paper filled with herbs, Zhou Donghuang rose from his seat and strode out of the hall of the Magnolia Guild. Only Hong Yu was left holding the piece of paper filled with herbs, a bitter smile on his face. "This young Master Donghuang is really giving me a hard time. Qingshan town won't be able to gather all these herbs in a short time. Looks like I can only send people to the neighboring towns at top speed. In this way, I should be able to gather these medicinal ingredients within 2 days." Like the Magnolia Guild, the Sunset Guild had to borrow money from Yunxian restaurant from time to time due to a lack of funds. Now that Zhou Donghuang was the owner of Yunxian restaurant, he only needed to say one word to sever the tacit lending relationship that had been established between Yunxian restaurant and the Sunset Guild for a long time, causing the Sunset Guild to run out of funds. Moreover, if Zhou Donghuang's Yunxian restaurant refused to lend money to the Sunset Guild, the lesser families of Qingshan town would certainly not dare to lend money to the Sunset Guild, for they would be afraid of offending Zhou Donghuang. Today, outside the main entrance of the Magnolia Guild, Zhou Donghuang stepped over Wang Yuquan's corpse and made a name for himself. From now on, Qingshan town will have one less Wang Yuquan and one more Zhou Donghuang. Hong Yu knew that this was the general trend, and no matter how difficult the task that Zhou Donghuang had given him, he would do his best to carry it out. Walking out of the Magnolia Guild, Zhou Donghuang's eyes narrowed slightly. "I have given Hong Yu so much pressure, he should be able to gather all the herbs for me within 2 days. Then I will be able to formulate an even better qi-gathering elixir and increase the speed of my practice. In this way, I will be able to attain level 1 of qi-gathering even faster." The herbs that Zhou Donghuang had written down for Hong Yu were herbs that the Magnolia Guild did not have. It would be difficult for Qingshan town to gather them in such a short time, but looking at the small towns around Qingshan town, they would most likely be able to gather them. On the way back to the Magnolia Guild, Zhou Donghuang remembered something. Today is the 21st of December 1227 of the Ziyun era. Tomorrow is the 22nd of December 1227 of the Ziyun era. In my previous life, it was tomorrow that the crazy Taoist appeared before me and took me to Earth. In my previous life, the crazy Taoist targeted me entirely because of the seal that Father placed in my body. Now that the seal in my body has been removed, he will definitely not target me like he did in my previous life and take me to Earth. However, although he will not take me with him, he will definitely go to Earth. Because he was originally on his way to Earth when he passed by the planet of Ziyun and discovered the seal in my body. Delighted by the prospect, he brought me along with him to Earth. The crazy Taoist was a deranged, sloppily dressed old Taoist, and because of this, Zhou Donghuang called him the crazy Taoist. As for the origins of the crazy Taoist, he knew nothing. In his previous life, After the crazy Taoist helped him remove the seal in his body on Earth, he completely disappeared from his world, and even after he left Earth he had never seen the crazy Taoist again. Earth. Thinking of Earth, a look of nostalgia flashed across Zhou Donghuang's eyes. That beautiful blue planet was the one he had spent the longest time on in his previous life, and he viewed it as his home. Before going to Earth he would never have dreamed that there would be such a unique planet, where martial arts had declined and technology was the dominant force. There were all sorts of magical means of transportation such as bicycles, motorcycles, cars, trains, planes, and so on. It was only after a few days on Earth that he realized that even Singles' Day could become a shopping festival. In his previous life, when he arrived on Earth, it was the 5th of November 2018. The 11th of November 2018 was Singles' Day, and at the same time, it was a shopping festival. When I have the ability to travel through the stars with my own body, I still have to make a trip to Earth. There are some old friends there who have helped me a lot, and they are waiting for me to change their fates. In his previous life on Earth, Zhou Donghuang had gotten to know quite a number of people. These people had helped him not long after he had arrived on Earth. Later on, when some of them had encountered huge problems, he had also helped them solve them. In this life he had not been brought to Earth by the crazy Taoist, so those people would never know him again. However, their problems would still arise. Therefore, Zhou Donghuang decided to make a trip to Earth to help them solve their problems. Otherwise, it would definitely be a regret in his heart. However, it is too early to think about this now. The most important thing now is to attain level 1 of the gathered qi. Returning to the Magnolia Guild, Zhou Donghuang continued to practice the Lord of the Four Supremes in seclusion. He did not sleep for the entire day and night, practicing until the next morning, when he stopped and walked out of his room to go to his mother's room. Donghuang, what kind of wound healing elixir did you give mother yesterday? Such serious internal injuries were completely healed in just one night. When Zhou Donghuang entered, Lin Lan had already gotten out of bed, looking refreshed as if nothing had happened. Moreover, I feel very light all over my body now, and I have not felt so relaxed in a long time. Mother, that was my specially made wound healing elixir. Just that bottle of wound healing elixir alone, the herbs I used cost more than 30 liang of silver. Do you think it's not very effective? Zhou Donghuang smiled. 30 liang of silver? Lin Lan was shocked. Just that bottle of wound healing elixir costs more than 30 liang of silver. Mother, you know your injury best. How much do you think a wound healing elixir that can heal such an injury in a day and night would fetch on the market? Zhou Donghuang asked with a smile. My injury yesterday not only injured my ribs and meridians, but my internal organs were also injured and slightly displaced. Lin Lan murmured to herself as she thought. Lin Lan murmured to herself as she pondered. The more she thought about it, the more shocked she became. If such a wound-healing elixir were to be sold on the market, even if it was priced at 100 liang of silver, there would definitely be people fighting to buy it. As the guild master of the Magnolia Guild, Lin Lan had a good grasp of the market price. If I had taken the wound-healing elixir that is widely available on the market, my injury would not have recovered to such an extent without at least 10 days to half a month. That is to say, the value of this wound-healing elixir is more than 10 times that of the widely available wound-healing elixirs. As she murmured to herself, Lin Lan looked at Zhou Donghuang with shining eyes, like a wild wolf that had been starving for a long time and had finally seen its prey. That is to say, you have the formula for this wound-healing elixir in your hands? Seeing this, Zhou Donghuang naturally knew that Lin Lan's merchant mind had become active, and he mercilessly dampened Lin Lan's hopes. Mother, don't forget, the Magnolia Guild has already collapsed. Moreover, do you think that we can sell this wound-healing elixir so casually? Think about it, in the country of Yunyang, how effective is the best wound-healing elixir that has appeared so far? In the country of Yunyang, the best wound-healing elixir that had appeared so far was made by the superior-level medicine masters of the imperial court, and it was only twice as effective as the wound-healing elixir that was widely available on the market. With Zhou Donghuang's reminder, Lin Lan regained her rationality and said with a serious expression, I was too excited just now, this wound-healing elixir must not be sold. As the guild master of the Magnolia Guild for so many years, Lin Lan naturally understood the principle of, an innocent man gets into trouble because of his wealth. Chapter 18. Zhou Donghuang did not practice for the rest of the day. He helped Lin Lan and Granny Lien move the treasures from the Magnolia Guild's treasure storehouse to the courtyard behind Yunshan Restaurant. As for the other goods, a group of guards and servant girls were responsible for moving them. When night fell, the Magnolia Guild was deserted. Zhou Donghuang stood with Lin Lan at the main entrance of the Magnolia Guild for a long time. "Mother, the new will not come if the old does not go," Zhou Donghuang advised. "Even so, the Magnolia Guild has been around for more than 10 years. Lin Lan sighed. More than 10 years of hard work, in the end, was it all going to go down the drain? The old Magnolia Guild has fallen, can't a new Magnolia Guild start anew? Zhou Donghuang countered. A new Magnolia Guild? Lin Lan turned around and looked at Zhou Donghuang with sparkling eyes. Donghuang, you mean, Mother, to establish a new Magnolia Guild? As long as Mother is willing. Yunxian Restaurant will always be Mother's shield, Zhou Donghuang said with a smile. He had thought it through over the past 2 days. If his mother still could not let go of the Magnolia Guild, he would establish a new Magnolia Guild for her. With the financial support of Yunxian Restaurant, the new Magnolia Guild would not be inferior to the old one. Donghuang. Lin Lan smiled bitterly. Establishing a guild is not that simple. The preeminent families of the prefecture capital will not allow an ordinary person to establish a guild and compete with the guilds under them for business. If I establish a new Magnolia Guild, neither the Hong family of the prefecture capital nor the Lin family of the prefecture capital will agree. Because Qingshan town is the territory of the guilds under them. Even your Yunxian Restaurant, if not for the fear of Elder Zhao San's reputation, there would be many people eyeing it. Speaking of which, Lin Lan's face also became solemn. The Wang family's visit to seek revenge the day before had allowed her to guess some things. Zhao San would not necessarily care about her son Zhou Donghuang's affairs. Zhao San had probably sent her son Zhou Donghuang to Yunxian Restaurant to repay a favor. In the coming days, when news of the change in ownership of Yunxian Restaurant reached the prefecture capital, many people would surely go to the governor's household to find out what Zhao San had to say. As long as Zhao San expressed that he did not care who Yunxian Restaurant belonged to in the future, there would certainly be many people coming to Qingshan town to fight for Yunxian Restaurant. Donghuang, tell me honestly, what is your relationship with Zhao San? If someone came to rob Yunxian Restaurant, would he help you? Lin Lan asked Zhou Donghuang solemnly. Mother, I, Zhou Donghuang, can protect my own things. Zhou Donghuang smiled lightly. But his words had another meaning in Lin Lan's ears. Zhao San would not help. Immediately, Lin Lan became even more worried, and all she could think of was how to help Zhou Donghuang protect Yunxian Restaurant. She no longer thought of establishing a new Magnolia Guild. Donghuang, Mother is a little tired, let's go back. Hearing Lin Lan's invitation, Zhou Donghuang and Lin Lan left the Magnolia Guild together and returned to Yunxian Restaurant. Yunxian Restaurant occupied a large area, but only the area in front was open to the public. The area behind it was a compound that was not open to the public. This was where Zhao San used to live. Compared to the environment of the Magnolia Guild, the environment here was even better. The guards and servant girls of the Magnolia Guild all smiled brightly when they arrived. When they returned, Granny Lian had already instructed the guards and servant girls to make all the necessary arrangements. The spacious room that Zhao San used to live in had become Zhou Donghuang's room. That Zhao San really knows how to enjoy himself. In the spacious room, a row of screens separated 2 areas. One was where the bed was, and the other was a table with pen and paper on it. Obviously, this was where Zhao San usually practiced his calligraphy. In addition, there were many paintings and calligraphy on the walls of the room. The words were bold and powerful, and they were all signed Zhao San. The calligraphy is not bad, it's a pity that it lacks some grandeur. Zhou Donghuang came to the table and on a whim he picked up the brush on the table, dipped it in ink and wrote on the white paper on the table. If anyone dares to provoke me, I will teach him a lesson. These words were even more bold and powerful than Zhao San's, and most importantly, they had a majestic grandeur to them. As for the signature, Zhou Donghuang casually waved his hand and wrote his name in a flourish. A piece of calligraphy that far surpassed any of Zhao San's had been born. However, Zhou Donghuang did not hang it up, but left it casually on the table. He went behind the screen and went to practice on his bed. He practiced all the way until the next day when the guild master of the Sunset Guild, Hong Yu, came to deliver all the herbs that Zhou Donghuang had given him. Only then did Zhou Donghuang wake up from his practice. With the herbs that he needed, Zhou Donghuang formulated a qi-gathering elixir that could increase the sensitivity to qi by 3 times. When this qi-gathering elixir appeared before Lin Lan, she could not help but be shocked after she tried it. Mother, you should destroy all your qi in practice from the beginning. Zhou Donghuang looked at Lin Lan seriously and said, I have a better and more suitable method of practice in my hands. If you practice that method, your future will be limitless. Mother is already so old, how can my future be limitless? Lin Lan shook her head, thinking that Zhou Donghuang was comforting her. However, if Donghuang thinks it's good, I can destroy all my qi in practice from the beginning. Finally, Lin Lan destroyed all her qi in front of Zhou Donghuang, intending to practice the method that Zhou Donghuang had given her again. From beginning to end, she had no hesitation and trusted Zhou Donghuang unconditionally. The method that Zhou Donghuang had given Lin Lan was not the Lord of the Four Supremes, nor was it the Thousand-Star Sword Technique, the Fiery Thunder Training Regimen, or the Manual of Unruffled Sage. Instead, it was a method called the Technique of Everlasting Youth. This method was also one of the top methods in the universe, but its main focus was not on combat but on longevity. The more one practiced this method, the longer one's life would be. Moreover, the speed of practice was not slow. Most importantly, it was very friendly to those with average talent. On the path of practice, it could subtly change and enhance the practitioner's talent. Mother, this technique of everlasting youth is the most suitable method for you that I can think of. Practice it well, and in the future you will be able to feel its wonders for yourself. Zhou Donghuang wrote down the technique of everlasting youth and instructed Lin Lan to memorize its contents before burning it. He left 10 bottles of qi-gathering elixirs for Lin Lan, which could increase the sensitivity to qi by 3 times, before leaving Lin Lan's room. The method that he had chosen for Lin Lan might not be the best, but it was the most suitable for Lin Lan. Next, I should rely on this newly formulated qi-gathering elixir to break through to level 1 of qi-gathering. After returning from Lin Lan's room, Zhou Donghuang continued to practice. And the 22nd day of the 12th month of the 1227 of the Ziyun era gradually passed as Zhou Donghuang practiced. From beginning to end, the crazy Taoist did not appear. Zhou Donghuang successfully changed the history of his previous life and was not brought away from the planet of Ziyun to Earth by the crazy Taoist. On the 23rd day of the 12th month of the 1227 of the Ziyun era noon, young Master Fu said, "Someone from the Li family of the prefecture capital came to Yunxian restaurant and asked to see you." Granny Lian's voice rang out in the room, causing Zhou Donghuang to pause his practice. The Li family of the prefecture capital? Zhou Donghuang's eyes narrowed slightly, and a cold light flashed across them. Looks like it is the clan brother from the Li family of the prefecture capital that Li Xian mentioned. When Zhou Donghuang walked into a heavenly dining booth in Yunxian restaurant, a well-built middle-aged man in blue was sweeping up the delicacies on the table like a tornado. "You're looking for me?" Zhou Donghuang asked as he pushed open the door and entered, his gaze sweeping over the middle-aged man indifferently. "You are the new owner of Yunxian restaurant, Zhou Donghuang." The middle-aged man only lifted his head to look at Zhou Donghuang indifferently before continuing to bury his head in the delicacies on the table. As he ate, he said in an inarticulate and commanding tone, "Where is Li Xian? Tell him to come out and see me." "Li Xian?" Zhou Donghuang smiled indifferently. "I'm afraid you won't be able to see him." "What do you mean?" The middle-aged man finally stopped eating, and his gaze fell like lightning on Zhou Donghuang, and his expression darkened slightly. "Nothing much. I just wanted to tell you that he's already dead, and if you want to see him, I'm afraid you'll have to enter the gates of hell to find him." Zhou Donghuang's smile remained. You killed him?" The middle-aged man's expression changed and he shook his head. "I almost forgot, you're just a martial invalid? You instructed someone to kill him? If I told you I stomped him to death, would you believe me?" Zhou Donghuang asked. "You." The middle-aged man sneered. Although Li Xian's martial talent was not much, he was still a level 1 adept of qi gathering. "You, a martial invalid, what right did you have to kill him? It looks like you've just arrived in Qingshan town." Hearing this, Zhou Donghuang knew that the middle-aged man must have just arrived in Qingshan town, or else he would have heard from someone else that he had killed the level 2 adept Wang Yuquan. These few days, the talk of Qingshan town had revolved around him killing Wang Yuquan. "Speak, what do you want from me?" Zhou Donghuang asked impatiently. "If there's nothing else, I'm in a hurry to go back and practice." "You're a martial invalid, what are you practicing for?" The middle-aged man laughed coldly. "Zhou Donghuang, since you've come yourself, I'll be honest with you. The second young master of the Li family of the prefecture capital has taken a liking to this Yunxian restaurant, so he sent me to Qingshan town to buy it from you." The middle-aged man revealed his purpose in a few words. The last time he had received Li Xian's letter, he had immediately sought out the second young master of the Li family of the prefecture capital whom he was loyal to. because he knew that a business like Yunshan Restaurant was not something he could afford to buy. But if he gave it to the second young master, not only would he be able to make a contribution, but he would also be able to reap even more benefits. By Yunshan Restaurant? Zhou Donghuang's deep gaze fell on the middle-aged man, and he asked indifferently, "Then, how much does the second young master of the Li family of the prefecture capital intend to spend to buy my Yunshan Restaurant?" 1,000 liang. The middle-aged man's gaze was like lightning as he met Zhou Donghuang's gaze. Chapter 19. 8,000 liang of silver? Zhou Donghuang was taken aback at first, and then he could not help but laugh. "Do you know, my Yunshan Restaurant's daily turnover after deducting all expenses is more than 1,000 liang of silver? If Yunshan Restaurant was yours and someone offered you 1,000 liang of silver to buy it, would you sell it?" As he said this, Zhou Donghuang looked at the middle-aged man as if he were looking at an idiot. "Zhou Donghuang, 1,000 liang of silver is our second young master's greatest sincerity. If you are not willing, be careful that you lose the restaurant and not get a single cent." The middle-aged man's eyes flashed coldly, and his tone carried a hint of threat. "What? Does that second young master of the Li family of the prefecture capital want to rob me of my restaurant?" Zhou Donghuang's expression did not change, but the smile on his face grew wider. "You can think of it that way," the middle-aged man said in a low voice. "I'll give you one last chance. Either you accept the 1,000 liang of silver and give me the title deed to Yunshan Restaurant. Otherwise, I will cripple your limbs and take the title deed to Yunshan Restaurant from you." As he spoke, the middle-aged man rose from his seat and stared at Zhou Donghuang with a sinister smile, as if he would immediately attack Zhou Donghuang if he dared to refuse. As a level 2 adept, he did not think that he could not handle this martial invalid before him. "What? Do you still want to fight?" Zhou Donghuang asked with a smile, his face calm and relaxed, showing no trace of the fear that the middle-aged man had imagined. However, there was a trace of coldness in the depths of his eyes. "Cripple his arms and legs? It looks like you have chosen the latter." The middle-aged man's eyes flashed, and with a shake of his body he took a quick step towards Zhou Donghuang, his arms extended and retracted like an eagle spreading its wings, his hands forming claws and grabbing at Zhou Donghuang's shoulders. "In that case I will first cripple your arms." A level 2 adept of qi gathering? The moment the middle-aged man made his move, Zhou Donghuang could tell that he was a level 2 adept, but his qi was not as thick as Wang Yuquan's. Even Wang Yuquan had died at his hands. At that time he was far weaker than he was now. These 2 days of practice had thickened the qi in his body, and he was only a step away from level 1 of qi gathering. Oh, oh. Just as the middle-aged man appeared in front of Zhou Donghuang, his hands grabbing at Zhou Donghuang's shoulders, Zhou Donghuang's upper body bent backwards, as though he was drawing a bow. His arms trembled, and in an instant, his body straightened as he flung both palms towards the middle-aged man's arms. Just as the middle-aged man was shocked at the speed of Zhou Donghuang's attack, Zhou Donghuang's 2 palms had already landed on his arms. Bang, bang, crack, crack. 2 loud sounds rang out, accompanied by the crisp sound of bones breaking. The next moment, the middle-aged man let out a blood-curdling scream like a pig being butchered. His entire body flew backward and fell heavily on the dining table. He was in a sorry state. Whoosh. At the same time that the middle-aged man's body landed on the dining table, Zhou Donghuang moved and caught up to the dining table. He stepped on the chest of the middle-aged man who was struggling to get up, and pushed him back down again. "You want to snatch Yunshan Restaurant from me, Zhou Donghuang, with just this bit of ability?" Zhou Donghuang looked down at the middle-aged man and grinned. "You?" Now the middle-aged man looked at Zhou Donghuang with shock and terror, as though he had seen a ghost, and he was cursing Li Xian incessantly in his heart. Didn't that Li Xian say that Zhou Donghuang was a martial invalid? How could a martial invalid have such great ability? In the instant that Zhou Donghuang's 2 palms landed on his arms and crippled them, he realized that Zhou Donghuang's ability was above his own. Just the power contained in those 2 palms was not something that an ordinary level 2 adept of qi gathering could produce, to say nothing of anything else. "Go back and tell that *T second young master of the Li family of the prefecture capital that if he wants to snatch my Yunshan Restaurant, tell him to come here himself." As he spoke, Zhou Donghuang's gaze suddenly turned cold, and he squatted down without warning, his palms once again landing on the middle-aged man's legs. Immediately, the middle-aged man's legs followed in the footsteps of his arms, and he once again let out a blood-curdling scream like a pig being slaughtered and fainted. Just a moment ago the middle-aged man had been incomparably arrogant, declaring that he would cripple Zhou Donghuang's arms and legs. Now Zhou Donghuang's arms and legs were unharmed, but the middle-aged man's had been crippled. Walking out of the heavenly dining booth, Zhou Donghuang said to Chief Steward Fu, who was standing guard outside, "Take the money from him for this meal, then find a few people outside and a stretcher to send him back to the Li family of the prefecture capital. You don't have to take the money from him for hiring those people and buying the stretcher. We at Yunxian Restaurant can still afford this bit of money." As soon as he finished speaking, Zhou Donghuang left under Fu's respectful gaze. Looks like the fact that I, Zhou Donghuang, have become the owner of Yunxian Restaurant has made many people restless. As he walked out of Yunxian Restaurant, a cold look flashed across Zhou Donghuang's eyes. However, if they want to take Yunxian Restaurant from my hands, we'll have to see if they have the ability to do so. Zhou Donghuang knew very well. The Li family of the prefecture capital had designs on Yunxian Restaurant, and this was only the beginning. Because of Li Xian, the Li family of the prefecture capital was more well-informed, and they knew that Zhao San did not have a close relationship with him and would not stand up for him. In the future, more people would seek out Zhao San or those close to him to make inquiries, and once it was confirmed that Zhao San was not related to him, those people would definitely not let go of a fat piece of meat like Yunxian Restaurant. Yunxian Restaurant was the most profitable business in Qingshan town, and any preeminent family of the prefecture capital would be tempted by it. I must strive to attain level 1 of Qi gathering before today. After leaving Yunxian Restaurant, Zhou Donghuang returned to the courtyard behind Yunxian Restaurant, and the guards at the entrance bowed respectfully to him. Young master. Young master. The guards were all veterans of the Magnolia Guild, and they had watched Zhou Donghuang grow up, but now they looked at this young master with reverence in their eyes. They did not dare to look at Zhou Donghuang as if he were a junior. They knew very well that after this young master had killed the level 2 adept Wang Yuquan, the pillar of the family was no longer the guild master of the Magnolia Guild, Lin Lan, but this young master. On his way back to his room, Zhou Donghuang passed by Lin Lan's room, and he saw Granny Lian hesitating in front of Lin Lan's room with a frown, unsure whether to knock or not. "Granny Lian, what's the matter? Are you looking for my mother?" Zhou Donghuang asked Granny Lian softly. "Young master." Seeing Zhou Donghuang, Granny Lian glanced cautiously at Lin Lan's room. "Let's talk in the drawing room outside." Once in the drawing room, Granny Lian said with a bitter smile, "Young master, it's like this. Half a month ago, the Qingyun Guild of Ningping Town ordered 10 bracelets of pure gold made by the Lin family of the prefecture capital from our Magnolia Guild. Because of their high value, we had originally intended for leader Lin Ping to deliver them personally, but he was summoned back to the Lin family. Lin Ping was the former chief guard of the Magnolia Guild, a level 2 adept of Qi gathering, and he had been assigned by the Lin family of the prefecture capital to guard the Magnolia Guild in Qingshan town. When the Magnolia Guild sent out goods of high value, Lin Ping would usually personally escort them. The people sent by the Lin family of the prefecture capital to establish the new guild should have arrived in Qingshan town by now, right? Can't we let them deliver it? Zhou Donghuang asked. Granny Lian shook her head. The accounts for this transaction have already been settled with the Lin family of the prefecture capital. The balance of the 10 bracelets delivered and the money collected will be our Magnolia Guild's own money, and there is no need to share it with the Lin family. Because of this, they still had to deliver the goods themselves and collect the balance. 10 bracelets of pure gold. The value of 10 bracelets of pure gold was not low, and without the personal escort of a level 2 adept, no one would dare to sell them. Granny Lian, I will personally deliver them, Zhou Donghuang said to Granny Lian. Zhou Donghuang said to Granny Lian, help me arrange a carriage. I'm going to practice on the road. From Qingshan town to Ningping town on horseback, a day and night's journey would be sufficient for the round trip. However, if it was a carriage it would take 3 days and 3 nights. However, there was no way to practice on horseback, but if it was a carriage he could practice in the carriage. At this critical juncture of attaining level 1 of Qi gathering, Zhou Donghuang did not want to waste any time. Alright. Hearing that Zhou Donghuang would personally escort the 10 bracelets of pure gold, Granny Lian's eyes lit up, and she hurriedly left the drawing room to make the arrangements. In her opinion, her young master personally escorting them would be foolproof. After all, her young master had even been able to kill the level 2 adept of the Wang family, Wang Yuquan, who was known as the bloody-handed butcher. The bandits roaming the roads between the small towns could not possibly be a match for her young master. Granny Lian was very efficient. After about a quarter of an hour, Zhou Donghuang took the heavy wooden box containing the 10 bracelets of pure gold, boarded the carriage and left Qingshan town. The driver of the carriage was a middle-aged guard from the Magnolia Guild. He was also a veteran of the Magnolia Guild, having joined the Magnolia Guild when it was first established. Uncle He, on the road, if you encounter a situation you cannot handle, throw this bell in. Zhou Donghuang handed a bell to the middle-aged guard driving the carriage as he left Qingshan town. If it is an ordinary bandit, you can negotiate with them. Tell them to get lost. If they insist on staying and you cannot handle them, throw the bell in and I will deal with them. As Zhou Donghuang spoke, a cold glint flashed in his eyes, ready to devour someone. Yes, young master. The middle-aged guard respectfully received the bell from Zhou Donghuang and carefully tucked it into his bosom. Zhou Donghuang was prepared to focus on practicing, and although he could hear any commotion, he did not intend to stop practicing. Therefore he had given the middle-aged guard a bell in case he needed it. He had also asked Granny Lian to prepare this bell. Chapter 20. It was peaceful in Qingshan town. However, outside of Qingshan town, one could encounter danger at any time. Danger could come from ferocious wild beasts that wandered out of the forest, or from bandits roaming the area. On the way from Qingshan town to Ningping town, bandits often lurked on the side, waiting for an opportunity to rob them of their wealth and sex. Not only could women be raped, but even some good-looking and charming young men could also be raped. Between Qingshan town and Ningping town, there was a road that required passing through a stretch of overgrown forest. This was also the place where bandits often appeared. And now there was a small group of bandits lurking in the forest by the road, waiting for an opportunity to strike. Second in command, I heard that your level of practice has improved recently. It won't be long before you reach level 2 of Qi gathering? A knife-scarred middle-aged man sitting on a large horse smiled as he asked the young man leading the group. Like the 5 men behind him, the young man in the lead was dressed in black, with a bamboo hat on his head and a cloak woven from bamboo grass draped over his back. He seemed to blend in with the surrounding forest. Beneath him was a steed that was a head taller than the horses that the 5 people behind him were riding, and its entire body was crimson red as if it was dyed with blood. Shockingly, it was a Fergana horse. Fergana horses could travel 1,000 miles in a day and were the finest of horses, known as the king of horses. On the market, a young Fergana horse could sell for 1,000 liang of silver. As for adult Fergana horses, they were very arrogant and few people could tame them. Most adult Fergana horses would rather kill themselves than be tamed. I will reach level 2 of Qi gathering in 3 months. There was a strong sense of confidence on the young man's cold face, and his eyes shone with a bright light. In 3 months, second in command, you will only be 26 years old. Another well-built middle-aged bandit could not help but sigh. Reaching level 2 of Qi gathering before 30 years old, in the last few decades around Qingshan town, second in command should be the first adept to reach level 2 of Qi gathering before the age of 30. In the last few decades around Qingshan town, the first adept to reach level 2 of Qi gathering before the age of 30? However, the young man shook his head when he heard his subordinate's flattery. A young man's figure appeared in his mind at the right time. Although he was a mounted bandit, most people who had seen him were already dead. Thus, he often changed his clothes and wandered around Qingshan town like an ordinary person, buying a few things and stopping by Yunxian restaurant for a meal. The delicacies at Yunxian restaurant could not be found in the wilderness outside of Qingshan town. Thus, even if he did not need to buy anything, he would go to Qingshan town once a month just to have a meal at Yunxian restaurant. A few days ago he went to Qingshan town as usual. He would never forget that day. Outside the main entrance of the Magnolia Guild, he who had been watching the commotion like everyone else, had seen with his own eyes a youth of only 16 years old kill the bloodthirsty butcher, Wang Yuquan, who had been famous around Qingshan town for many years. Furthermore, he had killed Wang Yuquan with a single palm. Zhou Donghuang. That day he remembered this name. Even if he would never have anything to do with this person in this life, he would never forget this name. My talent is just a joke in front of him. The young man sighed to himself. Second in command, there's a carriage coming. Just as the young man was still thinking about the incredible scene he had seen a few days ago, a voice behind him startled him out of his reverie. He looked up and saw a carriage coming from the direction of Qingshan town in the distance, moving at a high speed. Second in command, should we make a move? Just as another person was asking the young man on the other side of the road, a group of 10 mounted bandits galloped out, blocking the carriage and surrounding it. It's those fellows from Black Tiger Bastion. The knife-scarred middle-aged man frowned. It looks like we'll have to give them half of today's loot. Black Tiger Bastion was another bandit camp. The rules of the bandit world were that if 2 or more groups of bandits encountered the same prey at the same time, the final loot would be split evenly. Just then, the middle-aged driver of the carriage that had stopped was already shouting to the bandits surrounding the carriage, "Good men, the person in my carriage is the owner of Yunxian Restaurant, please do us a favor." The owner of Yunxian Restaurant? In the forest, the expressions of the 5 men behind the young man on the Fergana horse changed. It's Elder Zhao San? The owner of Yunxian Restaurant, Zhao San, was not to be trifled with, even in the eyes of the bandits around Qingshan town. It's him? However, unlike the reactions of the 5 men behind him, the young man's eyes narrowed as the figure of that youth once again appeared in his mind. A few days ago he had made a trip to Qingshan town and found out that the owner of Yunxian Restaurant, Zhao San, had already left Qingshan town, and before he left he had given Yunxian Restaurant to a youth named Zhou Donghuang. At first, he only knew that Zhou Donghuang was the son of Guild Master Lin Lan of the Magnolia Guild in Qingshan town. But just as he was about to leave Qingshan town, he witnessed with his own eyes the scene of Zhou Donghuang killing Wang Yuquan at the main gates of the Magnolia Guild. Elder Zhao San? The expressions of the bandits surrounding the carriage changed when they heard the driver's words. The burly man in the lead dismounted immediately and bowed to the carriage in a salute. Qian Tongtian, second in command of Black Tiger Bastion, pays his respects to Elder Zhao San. Pays his respects to Elder Zhao San. The other bandits around the carriage also dismounted and bowed to the carriage. The middle-aged man who was acting as the driver was so frightened by this that his expression changed slightly, and he took a few deep breaths to calm himself down. Qian Tongtian frowned when he saw that there was no response from within the carriage, and he spoke again, "Elder Zhao San, according to the rules of the underworld, please come out and meet us." Mounted bandits who licked blood from the edge of their blades were not so easily intimidated. Just like now. If it was really Zhao San inside, they would have left tactfully after seeing him with their own eyes. Otherwise, if any random person were to impersonate Zhao San, would they have to return empty-handed? Sir. Just then the middle-aged man who was acting as the driver said to Qian Tongtian, "Don't you know? Yunxian Restaurant changed owners a few days ago. The current owner is not Elder Zhao San, but our young master, Zhou Donghuang." Yunxian Restaurant changed owners? Qian Tongtian was taken aback and then he laughed coldly. "Do you think Yunxian Restaurant changed owners just because you said so? Who doesn't know that Elder Zhao San has always been the owner of Yunxian Restaurant since it was first built? I would like to hear, who is your young master to be able to make Elder Zhao San give him the most profitable business in Qingshan town, Yunxian Restaurant?" At this moment, the fear in Qian Tongtian's eyes disappeared, replaced by an icy coldness. In the forest, the other group of bandits who heard the conversation between the middle-aged driver and Qian Tongtian shook their heads, except for the young man leading them. So it's not Elder Zhao San, but this driver is really naive. Does he think he can intimidate Qian Tongtian by saying this? The knife-scarred man said disdainfully. "Second in command, let's go out as well. If we're late, the meat will be eaten up by these fellows from Black Tiger Bastion." Another bandit said to the young man leading them. "It's him indeed." Hearing the words of the middle-aged driver, the young man was completely certain that the person in the carriage was the youth he had never forgotten. "Second in command?" The other bandits also began to urge the young man. "If you don't want to die, stay put." The young man reprimanded. "Second in command you." The knife-scarred man and the other bandits looked confused. They could not understand why the usually decisive second in command of Green Wolf Bastion had suddenly become so timid today. "Just watch carefully. Qian Tongtian is going to be in big trouble." The young man's eyes narrowed, and his lips curled in a cold smile. On the other side. Seeing that the bandits surrounding the carriage had once again mounted their horses and were staring at him, the middle-aged driver hurriedly took out a bell and threw it into the carriage. Ding ding, 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 ding 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 ding. The bell fell to the ground making a crisp sound. "What? Throwing a bell to help your young master calm down?" Qian Tongtian grinned, the saber in his hand already raised, ready to give the order for his bandits to attack at any time. "Ha!" The bandits around the carriage could not help but burst into laughter when they heard Qian Tongtian's words. Zhou Donghuang had already awoken from his practice when he heard the bell. Just a little more and I would have broken through to level 1 of Qi gathering. Unfortunately, it has been interrupted. If it had not been interrupted, I would have broken through in an hour at most. Inside the carriage, Zhou Donghuang's expression was so dark that it seemed as if it could drip water. Now that it has been interrupted, it will take at least half a day before I can break through. Whoosh. Zhou Donghuang pulled open the curtains of the carriage and walked out. Young master. The middle-aged guard driving the carriage bowed respectfully to Zhou Donghuang and continued, "These bandits do not believe that young master is the new owner of Yunshan restaurant, and I can't do anything about it, so, I understand." Zhou Donghuang nodded in understanding, but when his gaze fell to the front, he was slightly taken aback. A Fergana horse? The leader of the bandits of Black Tiger Bastion, second-in-command Chen Tongtian, was also a Fergana horse. "You are the new owner of Yunshan restaurant?" Seeing Zhou Donghuang come out, the smile on Chen Tongtian's face grew wider, but his eyes were full of contempt and disdain. In his opinion, he could crush this 15 or 16-year-old youth to death with a flick of his finger. "Looks like you are the leader of these bandits." Zhou Donghuang stepped down from the carriage and walked to the front, his cold gaze falling on Chen Tongtian. "Do you know, you have interrupted my practice?" "That you're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure."